Chapter 4650. With that, when Chu raised his hand and the heaven and earth pagoda flew out. The pagoda emitted a thunderous roar, and enveloped the area within 100 miles of Dongfang Cheonghao. Its unstoppable force slammed down towards Dongfang Cheonghao. Haha. Dongfang Cheonghao wasn't afraid at all despite the pagoda's boundless aura. He sneered. You don't know what kind of treasure you're facing. With that, Dongfang Cheonghao waved his hand, and the small flag in his hand began to move. When Chu understood that this flag was a triangular flag, the entire flag was apricot yellow, and there were 5 golden lotuses embroidered on the flag. Between the 5 jade talismans, there were faint cloud patterns. The edges of the flag were embroidered with clouds, suns, and moons. When the flag was waved, the clouds floated and the sun and moon shone brightly. Moreover, the flag didn't summon any worldly energy or righteous aura. There wasn't even any energy fluctuation. However, as he waved it, the small flag shone with an apricot yellow light. Every time the light flashed, many golden lotuses would appear and slowly float in the air. Strange runic symbols flowed on the apricot yellow light. These runic symbols were golden and silver in color, and they looked like tadpoles or inscriptions. The lotuses rushed to the sky and landed below the pagoda. The pagoda rumbled several times but couldn't descend. It was stopped by Dongfang Cheonghao's apricot yellow flag. There wasn't the slightest trace of smoke and dust. In the name of the Son of Heaven, I summon the might of the heaven and earth, summon the arts of immortal Confucianism, and punish the traitors. Immortal Emperor Go Chen sneered, and took out his sword while chanting. As the emperor's words echoed in the air, the entire space trembled. Waves of earth-shattering ripples came down along with layers of heavenly punishment. The lightning was like fire, burning the sky red. Immortal Emperor Go Chen had already brought down his sword. The heavenly punishment and the wrath of the immortal palaces not only fell on Dongfang Cheonghao but also the hundreds of thousands of Dongfang clan disciples, that the west side of Longevity Town was where the Shiman family was guarding. Shiman Jianzhong held a triangular ball of light in his hand. The white cloud-bound flag did not reveal its true appearance. Beneath him, there were also hundreds of thousands of disciples from aristocratic families, close to 1 million. They were about to clash with Lunar Temple's troops. Shiman Jianzhong didn't command the battle formation. He narrowed his eyes and looked forward. In front of him, the golden-winged Peng and Feng Wu had surrounded him. Not to mention the fact that Feng Wu wanted to kill Shiman Jianzhong, even the golden-winged Peng was furious. As it flapped its wings, hundreds of pillars of light descended from the sky and fell into the star marks on its body. Then, a starlight phantom several thousand feet in size appeared near the golden-winged Peng's body. The space within this phantom completely collapsed and a destructive aura filled the air. The Phoenix Wu didn't dare to be careless and also moved her monster body. Boom, boom, boom. The power of the stars and moon poured down like a river of stars. As countless star patterns flashed around the Phoenix Wu's body, a starlight phantom that was less than 10,000 feet tall, but seemed to be solid and transparent appeared. The brilliance at the edge of this phantom was distorted, and if one's gaze fell upon it, they would immediately sink. The Phoenix Wu let out a clear cry and activated her monster body and phantom at the same time as the golden-winged rock. Her 4 sharp claws were suffused with a power that could destroy heaven and earth as she pounced toward Shiman Jianzhong. Shiman Jianzhong sneered. He waved the ball of light in his hand. The ball of light scattered, revealing a triangular cloud-bound flag. The flag was white, and there were 5 clouds embroidered on the flag. The 5 clouds were different, and there were some cloud-like patterns in between. At the edge of the white cloud-bound flag, there was no special shape, only some twisted cloud patterns. At this moment, when Shiman Jianzhong waved the white cloud-bound flag, the entire small flag emitted a white brilliance. At the bottom of the brilliance, strange runes flowed. These runes were the same as the other flags. They were golden and silver in color. They were shaped like tadpoles and were shaped like inscriptions. Moreover, under the brilliance, there was a lot of dense clouds. These clouds seemed to slowly float in the air, but in a moment, they protected Shiman Jianzhong and some of the disciples of the Shiman family, welcoming the terrifying attacks of the golden-winged rock and Feng Wu. At the south of the Longevity Town was naturally where the Nangong clan was guarding. Nangong Tianji's face was filled with shock as he faced the celestial being, and the lightning enlightened being. He really didn't expect immortal Emperor Gaochen and the others to be able to escape from the innate four directions grand formation. In order to set up this innate four directions grand formation without attracting the attention of the immortal palace, avoiding the earth, the heaven and earth gate, and the thunder sound temple's Arhut, the four great clans spent a lot of effort. In order to dispel immortal Emperor Gaochen's doubts, the four great clans even used the conflict between the Nangong clan and Xiaohua to set up a trap. They were prepared to use the 900,000 disciples and the Nangong clan's reputation as the price to lure immortal Emperor Gaochen. Whether it was the reputation or the 900,000 disciples, these were the limits of the four great clans. Their goal was to trap immortal Emperor Gaochen in the Longevity Town, so that they could attack the immortal palace and obtain the golden throne. Fortunately, Xiaohua was merciful. He took the Nangong clan's reputation and released the 500,000 disciples back to the four great clans. Dongfeng Qianghao secretly laughed at Xiaohua's soft-heartedness and comforted Nangong Tianji, saying that they would use the blood of the Fortune Gate's disciples to wash away the humiliation of the Nangong clan. However, the Nangong clan was clear that once the four great clans took over the immortal palace, the first thing they would do would be to appease and recruit the Fortune Gate. There was no way they would start a war. The Nangong clan would definitely be tied to the pillar of humiliation. The humiliation of the Nangong clan would probably only be forgotten after thousands of years. Therefore, when he saw the celestial being and the lightning enlightened being attacking together, Nangong Tianji's eyes turned red. He didn't wait for the two of them to make a move, and immediately waved the triangular ball of light in his hand. As the ball of light scattered, a triangular floating flame flag was revealed. This flag had 5 different colors, and there were 5 flames embroidered on the flag. Not only did each flame have a different color and shape, but they also divided the flag into 5 regions. These 5 regions intertwined with each other, and it looked like the chaotic space of the 5 elements. The 5 flaming swords also had some interconnected threads of fire. Strange runes were flashing on the swords. As Nangong Tianji waved the swords, the runes turned into tadpoles and swam on the flag. Layers of flame-shaped clouds rushed out rapidly and protected the disciples of the Nangong family and Nangong Tianji. Motherfucker! The celestial cursed as the clouds flew out. The layers of defenses were stronger than anything in the world, and the celestial raised his hand to summon the Deva's white bone. Rumbling sounds could be heard as the surrounding space began to collapse, and the magical laws of heaven and earth began to arrive. Seeing the faint golden light around the celestial being's body, and the laws of heaven and earth disappeared the moment they entered the golden light. The lightning enlightened being laughed and said, "Congratulations, fellow cultivator. If I'm not wrong, you will be able to refine the celestial being's white bone into your body today." Roar! The celestial being roared towards the sky. Golden light shone from his body, and 3 heads and 6 arms slowly grew out. The 3 mouths shouted at the same time. "Whether or not I can succeed will depend on whether the celestial being floating flame flag of that old bastard Nangong can withstand my attack." That after he finished speaking, the celestial being didn't hesitate. He waved his hands and feet, and rushed towards the flaming clouds of the floating flame flag. Puff puff puff. A series of muffled sounds came as the celestial being activated his cultivation technique. While refining the celestial being's white bone, he attacked Nangong Tianji at the same time. The celestial being's body flashed with golden light, and when the golden light landed on the cloud, it was as immortal Emperor Go-Chun had said. All evil was repelled, and all the golden light hit the surface of the celestial being's body. Waves of strange fluctuations came from the places where the golden light landed, and they rushed into the celestial being's body and penetrated his bones. Seeing the celestial being in such a state, the Thunderbolt Hermit kept the Thunderbolt sword that he had already activated and stood at the side with his hands behind his back to support the celestial being. However, the Thunderbolt Hermit also released his divine sense and scanned the surroundings. The primordial chaos ancestor, the concealed night child, and the riding crane hermit, who had flown out earlier, were nowhere to be seen. They must have left this troublesome place as soon as they escaped. The north of the Longevity town was naturally where the Dark North family was guarding. However, the Dipankara archaic Buddha, who had rushed out together with immortal Emperor Go-chun, wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the 9 grades lotus platform and glared at Dark North Kuo-ching, who was holding the triangular flag. The Buddhism sect was naturally merciful, but it didn't mean that they didn't have the means to subdue devils. Back then in the profound water palace, Guzhun even used his protective means and overestimated himself, trying to shake the profound essence water control flag. Facing the green lotus flag today, the Dipankara archaic Buddha's world lord was truly enraged. However, he chanted, "Namo Amitabha, my Buddha is merciful. Please forgive your disciples' anger today." As he spoke, the Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord raised his right palm, which expanded to a size of several miles. That Buddha palm was no longer a Buddha palm. Instead, it resembled a huge mountain, a deep pool, or countless Buddha kingdoms. Boundless power of faith fell within this Buddha palm. Under this Buddha palm, the power of mountains, stars, and samsara, which were commonly seen in Buddhism sect's Buddha seals, were continuously produced. Following the changes of this force, the space above the northern nether family's head started collapsing, and being annihilated. Buddha lights, blood lights, and even faint cries of wandering souls could be heard. Dark North Kuo-ching's expression changed drastically. However, she forced herself to remain calm, and waved the green lotus flag in her hand. This green lotus flag was different from the other 5 elements flags. A layer of treasured radiance covered the flag, and within the radiance, strange runes flickered. At first glance, this treasured radiance resembled the Maitreya Buddha's 7 wonders tree. Give it a recommendation vote, collect it, or tip it. Thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 4651. However, there were 3 green lotuses embroidered on the flag gate. The lotuses were of different sizes, and were arranged in a triangular formation. Each of the lotuses had clouds coming out from them. These clouds intertwined on the flag and formed circles as thin as mosquitoes. Currently, as the green lotus flag was being waved, countless rays of light shot out from the circular surface of the flag, forming the shapes of sariras of various sizes in midair. These sariras emitted a kind of extreme gentleness. As they shot into the air, they welcomed the Dipankara archaic Buddha's Buddha palm. Kill. As the group of Supreme Being experts made their moves, the immortal soldiers and immortal generals naturally received the orders from their generals. They activated the clouds and pounced on the battle teams of the disciples of the 4 great clans with weapons in hand. For a moment, the battle cries rang out again. Immortal Emperor Go-chun was fooled by the 4 clans, and came to Longevity from his palace. However, he was still fully prepared and hid his troops in the fire, earth, wind, and lightning above the town in case of an emergency. Unfortunately, Immortal Emperor Go-chun still underestimated the 4 clans. The moment the Xiantian 4 Corners Grand Formation appeared, it immediately cut off all information. If it wasn't for the new mystic water control flag, then the 4 clans would have succeeded. Once Immortal Emperor Go-chun escaped, the first thing he did was to issue a decree and order the 10 halls to surround and annihilate the disciples of the 4 great clans. Of course, the 4 great clans were not unprepared. The 70% of the disciples outside the Grand Formation were prepared to meet the 10 halls troops. In the time it took to finish a cup of tea, tens of thousands of disciples and immortal soldiers had already perished. Their flesh and blood began to scatter all over the sacred ground of the Buddhist sect. As for Immortal Emperor Gao-chun, the Son of Heaven's sword carried the heavenly punishment, and slammed into the 10,000 golden lotuses of the apricot yellow flag. The lotuses were destroyed by the heavenly punishment, but they were born again. Even with the suppression of Wenchu's worldly pagoda, the Son of Heaven's sword couldn't reach Dongfang Qionghao's eyes. Immortal Emperor Go-chun and Wenchu didn't succeed, but the Peng and the Phoenix parasol didn't fare any better. The 4 claws of the 2 grand saints were extremely powerful at this moment. Even if there was a mountain here, it would still be torn to pieces. However, when such a powerful attack landed in the clouds, it destroyed most of them. But in the next moment, more clouds surged out and dragged the 2 great saints' bodies out of the clouds. He didn't let them get close at all. As for the Dipankara archaic Buddha's Buddha palm, as soon as it landed, the Sarira lights were annihilated. However, as the lights were annihilated, another layer of lights appeared. These layers of lights overlapped each other and blocked the Buddha palm's attack. Upon seeing this, be it the immortal Emperor Go-chun, the Dipankara archaic Buddha, or even the golden-winged great rock, their expressions changed drastically. After all, as long as the 4 great clans had the 4 cardinal flags, they would be in an invincible position. This battle would probably not have any results. They all looked at the new princess who was standing with Xiao Hua in the distance. His gaze fell on the Xianyuan water control flag in her hand. Feng Wu Daoist thunderclap, and Wen Chu's expressions didn't change at all. They knew clearly in their hearts that even though the 4 great clans had the innate 4 directional flags, the flags could only be used for defense. In other words, they were invulnerable to all evil, and invulnerable to all techniques. Xiao Hua's Devil Saber massacre was the nemesis of these 4 cardinal flags. As for the heavenly being, he was happily activating his abilities and rushing into the flaming clouds. He was extremely busy. Exion, the immortal Emperor Go-chun said. Listen to my command. Help me destroy this yin-yang apricot yellow flag. Yes, your majesty. Exion naturally couldn't disobey the orders of the celestial emperor, so he respectfully responded. He secretly glanced at Xiao Hua before urging his body to fly out. When Dongfang Qianghao saw this, his face turned even paler. He seemed to have already seen the 4 great clans bleeding all over the ground and being annihilated. Boom, boom, boom. It was also at this moment that a thunderous sound came from the sky. It was like a torrential rain, and it was like 10,000 horses were mute. This sound covered the sky and passed through the sky. The floating clouds in the sky were more or less shattered. Layers of chaotic fluctuations fell down as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. In an instant, the sun and moon lost their light, and the stars dimmed. Ah! What's going on? All of the Supreme Being experts were dumbfounded. As the fluctuations descended, waves of fear and trepidation inexplicably arose in their hearts. A faint scent of blood and destruction drifted around their mouths and noses. However, this phenomenon disappeared in a flash. Before they could think about it, the sky above them shone brightly once again. Not only did the ripples disappear, even the sound disappeared. Everything was like the deafening battle cries. There was no change at all. That strange phenomenon was like a dream in an instant. Oh no! How could Xiao Hua not understand what had happened? He didn't hesitate at all. He didn't dare to conceal his cultivation anymore. He raised his hand and slapped his forehead. The immortal Emperor Go-chun also pointed at his forehead. Golden light overflowed from his eyes, and waves of strange fluctuations slowly appeared in front of his eyes. As for the Dipankara archaic Buddha, the World Lord retracted his Buddha palm. Shadows appeared in his ears, and countless radiances appeared behind his head and fell into the shadows of his ears. Boom! Just when the Supreme Being experts were about to execute their abilities to calculate the karma, another massive chi pillar emerged from the earth, fire, wind and lightning. A patrol inspector clad in bright armor descended from the sky. His figure was still distorted, and before he could solidify, a panicked voice resounded. Your Majesty, the Heaven's Secret Hall's G Prefecture has an urgent report. Before the inspector's voice could land, ka-cha-cha. A thunderous rumble could be heard. From the direction of the soaring Dragon Mountain Range, a Fortune Gate disciple with a cultivation of Grade 8 origin energy was flying over. That disciple's face was filled with panic as he hurriedly said, reporting to the Patriarch, there is an urgent report from the Star-Picking Tower. Boom. Similarly, from the Thunder Monastery's direction, a pillar of Buddha light pierced through the sky. A long-eared Arhat clad in a monk's robe hurriedly descended while stepping on a 6th-grade Buddha lotus. That Arhat's eyes were filled with disbelief. He didn't have the calmness of an ordinary Buddha as he said, Dipankara archaic Buddha, the World Lord, Heavenly King Polylore has sent an urgent report from the southern part of the Blessed Land world. Speak. Immortal Emperor Go-chun hurriedly stopped his divine ability and retreated. Reporting. Without waiting for the patrol inspector to speak, The starry sky to the north of the longevity town was already in chaos. Streams of stars fell from the sky, and after they fell to the ground, a celestial bridge pierced through them and rushed over from afar. Amidst the starlight, a faint hall could be seen on the other side of the celestial bridge. The great sage hall's celestial bridge sent a message? The golden-winged great rock didn't have any divine ability of karma, nor did he have the ability to predict the future. He only knew that something earth-shattering must have happened in the 3 continents. Now that he saw the great sage hall using the celestial bridge to send a message, his expression changed greatly. He exclaimed, "Could it be that something strange has happened in my 1,000 demons' sacred territory?" Sage Peng. No demons appeared where the star bridge landed. Instead, a dignified voice sounded. It was the 3rd great sage of the Great Sage Temple, the mystic armored Pentaceratops. Strange insects have appeared in the extreme north of our 1,000 demons' sacred realm. There are countless of them, and they devoured several demon realms in a single day. Not only did the demons in the demon realms vanish into nothingness, even the mountains and lakes of the demon realms have disappeared without a trace. It is exactly the same as the Qijing, Yuanfeng, and Bingqing demon realms from before. Countless. The golden-winged great rock was dumbfounded. Not only that, the Pentaceratops continued. The same insects have appeared in the west of the West Sea. They have devoured hundreds of thousands of sea demons and thousands of dragons. The Dragon King of the West Sea, Ao Hong, happened to be patrolling the Eye of the West Sea, and was besieged by the insects. It is unknown whether he is still alive or not. Sacred Rock, we have gathered at the Great Sage Hall. You and Sacred Phoenix should return quickly, so that we can discuss how to eliminate these insects. West Sea Dragon King Ao Hong is still alive? Let alone the golden-winged great rock, even immortal Emperor Go Chun, the Dipankara archaic Buddha, and Xiao Hua were stunned. The Dragon King of the West Sea, Ao Hong, was a Dragon King of the 9th grade Essence Qi realm. Although he had yet to reach the peak of the 9th grade Essence Qi realm, he shouldn't have been besieged by these insects, right? Strange insects. Xiao Hua suddenly came to an understanding, and his gaze passed through everyone to look at Sun Jian. Sure enough, Sun Jian's expression changed drastically as well, and he just happened to be looking at Xiao Hua. As their gazes met, a strand of indescribable terror arose in their eyes at the same time. None of the people present knew how powerful the strange insects they had encountered in the void were. If they encountered those strange insects, then the 3 continents would be doomed. After all, even the dragon race and the dragon temple were no match for those strange insects. After the profound armored Pentaceratops finished speaking, the starry bridge disappeared, and the inverted starry river returned to its original state. Your Majesty, the Immortal Palace's inspector stole a glance at Immortal Emperor Go Chun, who had also turned pale, and reported, "Urgent report from the Heavenly Mysteries Hall. Strange insects have appeared at the border of the hidden immortal continent in the east of the Ji province. These insects are innumerable. They are like locusts, leaving no survivors behind. Now they have caused the annihilation of 10 countries. Millions of living beings have died. 10 7th grade Essence Qi realm disciples of the Heavenly Mysteries Hall have perished, and 400,000 immortal soldiers guarding the border of the continent have gone missing." Long-eared Arhut. Shock appeared on the Dipankara archaic Buddha's face as he looked at the Arhut who had sent the report. Reporting to the World Lord. Long-eared Arhut hurriedly replied, "Heavenly King Polylor has sent an urgent report from the southern part of the Blessed Land world. Strange insects have appeared at the border of the Blessed Land world. These insects are of different sizes. The small ones are less than a few inches, while the big ones are more than a few dozen feet. These insects devour everything, and they especially like things that contain the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Some insects even devour Buddhist lights." Before the report was sent, more than 40 temples and 60,000 Buddhas had gone missing. Among them, 7 Arhats and 14 Vajras had gone missing. Chapter 46-52. Hearing this, Xiao Hua couldn't help asking, "How many people have gone missing?" That long-eared Arhut originally had other numbers to say, But when he heard Xiaohua's question, he took a deep breath and lamented, 40 temples. About 4,670,000 benefactors have disappeared. So many. Xiaohua's heart ached. Then he looked at his disciple and asked, "Do you have more bad news?" That Fortune Gate disciple took a deep breath and said loudly, "Other than the above, Zhaixing Lu has other news. On the hidden immortal mainland, strange insects have appeared in Qing province in Yangzhou, killing nearly 700,000 people in 4 towns. On the Whitebone mountain range in the western part of the Western Paradise, 400,000 people have gone missing, and the mountain range has been swallowed. If I'm not mistaken, it is also the doing of strange insects. On the eastern part of the Thousand Demons Sacred Territory, 800,000 demonic beast tribes have gone missing near the Chitty River, including 307 greater demonic beasts. On the eastern part of the Eastern Sea, 310,000 sea tribes have been killed by strange insects." "Anything else?" Xiaohua gritted his teeth. "Yes." That disciple flipped his hand and took out a jade eye. He passed it to Xiaohua and said, "Zhaixing Lu has lost more than a dozen disciples and sent back images of strange insects." Xiaohua lifted his hand and made a grabbing motion. The jade eye instantly fell into his hand. Xiaohua flipped his hand and placed it on his forehead, but at that moment, he hesitated for a moment. He closed his eyes slightly, calmed his mind and put it down. As Xiaohua had expected, there were more than a dozen images of strange insects in the jade eye. Some were big, some were small, and 2 of them were exactly the same as the ones he had seen in the void on the Dragon Island. Among these dozen strange insects, there were 3 that were bigger than the strange insects he had seen on the Dragon Island. Similarly, there were 7 or 8 strange insects that were smaller than the strange insects Xiaohua had seen in the void. Moreover, the smallest strange insect, Xiaohua, seemed to be slightly familiar. He pondered for a moment before coming to a realization. Wasn't it the myriad of black dots he saw in the spatial rift when he fell into the Western Sea all those years ago? At that time, the black dots were completely black, but he could still remember the shape of the black dots. Wasn't it similar to the smallest strange insect? Moreover, the black dots wriggled like maggots, and the black dots attacked like soul spikes. Xiaohua's memories were still fresh in his mind. Even Xiaohua, who had an innate divine restriction outside his Naiwan palace that was impossible for ordinary people, was knocked unconscious by this strange insect's soul-piercing attack. Then, what about the other cultivators? If it were any other cultivator, even if they had reached the tribulation passing stage, without a special spirit treasure or even a heaven spirit treasure, they wouldn't be able to escape death. Xiaohua's heart couldn't help but clench at the thought of the hundreds of millions of strange insect shadows. He took the jade eye ring off his forehead and looked at the disciples of the 4 great clans who had stopped fighting, as well as the immortal soldiers and immortal generals of the 10 halls of the immortal palaces. With sorrow in his eyes, he threw the jade eye ring to Sun Jian. Seeing the jade pupil slowly flying in the air, it didn't fall into immortal Emperor Go Chen's hand, but it fell into Sun Jian's. Others didn't understand, but Sun Jian's heart felt as if it had fallen into an ice cellar. After receiving the jade eye ring, light flashed in Sun Jian's eyes. After looking at it for a moment, his face turned pale, and he respectfully passed it to immortal Emperor Go Chun. After immortal Emperor Go Chun looked at it, he passed it to Taibai Jinxing. Taibai Jinxing didn't take a look at it, and instead, he passed it to Namo Great Wisdom Manjushri, who then passed it to Namo Dipankara Archaic Buddha. That after all the supreme experts present finished looking at it, the jade eye ring returned to Xiaohua's hand. Xiaohua looked at the jade eye ring with a heavy gaze, and just as he was about to keep it, immortal Emperor Go Chen shouted from afar, Xian, come and help me break this Wuji apricot yellow flag. Disciples of the immortal palaces, listen to my command, kill. Damn it. Xiaohua was enraged. He pointed his finger, and a thunderbolt descended from the sky, striking towards immortal Emperor Go Chen. Of course, this thunderbolt was only a warning. Immortal Emperor Go Chen wielded the Sun Moon Emperor armor to shatter this thunderbolt. Master Shaolei, are you going to offend your superior? Immortal Emperor Go Chen lost his face, and he couldn't help but feel angry. Your Majesty. Xiaohua looked at the 10 immortal palaces of the immortal palaces, and suppressed the anger in his heart. Don't you see? The extraterrestrial enemies have already invaded the 3 continents and the 4 seas. If we don't work together to defend against them, I'm afraid the 3 continents and 4 seas will be destroyed. Destroy the world. How is that possible? Immortal Emperor Go-chun sneered. Since the ancient times, our 3 continents have existed for who knows how long, and who knows how many extraterrestrial dangers we've encountered. I also never knew that the extraterrestrial enemies had the ability to destroy the world. Are the cultivators of our 3 continents made of mud? Immortal Emperor Go-chun looked at Dongfang Qianghao and said, to resist the foreign invasion, we must first settle our internal affairs. Even if I want to defend against the foreign invasion, I must first eliminate the 4 great clans. Otherwise, how can I be at ease killing those strange insects? Princess Xian hurriedly said. Reporting to your majesty, although I have already controlled the mystic water control flag, the innate 5-element flags are only good at defense, and cannot be used to attack. Moreover, I'm only at the lower 7th grade of origin energy. Even if I use the mystic water control flag, I can't break through the yin-yang apricot yellow flag, which is controlled by a 9th grade origin energy cultivator. Your majesty, please understand. Haha, no matter. Immortal Emperor Go-chun laughed. As long as you can control the yin-yang apricot yellow flag's defense. Unfortunately, before Immortal Emperor Go-chun finished speaking, Xiaohua also laughed loudly and said, haha, no matter, Xian, go and help his majesty. Let them fight to the death. This Xiao will send a message to the soaring dragon mountain range, and my Fortune Gate's disciples will all go out to battle. Rather than dying in the mouths of those strange insects, why not exterminate the 4 great clans and the Immortal Palace, and this Xiao will be free in the Cloud Ascension Palace for a few days. Amitabha. The Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha chanted the Buddha's name, and gave up on Baiming Choqing. He raised his hands and formed a Buddha seal with his palms. As the Buddha seal flickered, the radiance behind the Dipankara archaic Buddha's head shone brightly. Layers of Buddha radiance condensed into a stream and fell into the Buddha seal. Gradually, the space around the Buddha seal started distorting and collapsing strangely. Then strings of golden tattoos gushed out like tadpoles. These golden tattoos transformed into a huge swastika character and slowly rotated in midair. Waves of cryptic fluctuations were emitted from the swastika character and rushed into the surrounding void. That seeing the Dipankara archaic Buddha's actions, Immortal Emperor Go-chun hesitated for a moment. Then he raised his hand and took out the clear heavenly mirror. He opened his mouth, and a dragon-like Confucian fate entered the clear heavenly mirror. The entire clear heavenly mirror let out a rumbling sound and transformed into a huge door of light. Appear. Immortal Emperor Go-chun raised his hand again and slapped the crown on his head. Wu. Amidst the flickering lights, the impure 5-colored true qi rushed into the door of light like a pillar. Then the entire door of light shone with multicolored radiance. Strange fluctuations were emitted from the void and rushed into the radiance with a roar. Then scenes of light appeared within the radiance. That Xiaohua knew that the 2 supreme experts were using their abilities to divine the future. He also raised his hand and was about to release the Thunder Nebula. However, his heart skipped a beat, and he stopped. Looking at the trembling void and the intertwining fluctuations, he sighed. Sigh. Then he looked up at the sky again. The phenomenon just now wasn't created out of nothing. If there wasn't any danger of world destruction, why would there be such omens? As expected, after a while, the radiance within the clear heavenly mirror gradually faded, turning into black and white. The swastika symbol in front of the Dipankara archaic Buddha's eyes also slowly withered, turning into grayish-white. Immortal Emperor Go-chun's appearance was hidden behind the golden radiance of the crown, and no one could see it. However, the despair on the Dipankara archaic Buddha's face was obvious. Amitabha for great families. The Dipankara archaic Buddha's Buddha lotus beneath the Dipankara archaic Buddha's feet was already emitting Buddha radiances. He then said, the unprecedented calamity of our 3 continents is approaching. No matter if it's the human race, the demon race, or the dragon race, all living in the 3 continents must work together to resist the enemies outside. Today's matter. My Buddhism sect won't pursue it any further. When you return, think about it carefully. Do you want to live in internal strife, or die in the hands of the strange insects outside? Amitba, Namo Daji Manjushri, and the other Buddhas clasped their palms together and chanted Buddha's name. Following the Dipankara archaic Buddha's world exalt, they flew into the sky and disappeared in an instant. Ka! The golden-winged great roc also let out a cry. He flapped his wings and flew into the sky, shouting, "Old man Shiman, consider yourself lucky today. Before the calamity, I won't lower myself to your level. If you can fight against the enemies outside with the help of the human race, I'll treat it as if nothing happened. Otherwise, don't blame me for luring my 1,000 demons' sacred territories' children into the 4 great families." After saying that, the golden-winged great roc flew into the sky. Feng Wu also nodded toward Xiaohua and followed after him. Seeing Feng Wu leaving, Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly sent a voice transmission. "Phoenix Sage, don't we have a teleportation formation under the Black Wind Ridge? Use the teleportation formation to return with the Rock Sage." "All right," Feng Wu replied. "Since you've taken out our Fortune Gate's teleportation formation, I'm afraid the Rock Sage will treat you as his brother in the future." Then Feng Wu and the golden-winged great roc's figures tilted and landed on the Black Wind Ridge. "Your Majesty," seeing that the demonic beast race and the Buddhist sect had left, Dongfang Qianghao hurriedly said, "This old subject was foolish and blinded by greed. I actually wanted to scheme against your Majesty." Dongfang Qianghao's expression changed like flipping through a book. Xiaohua was also dumbfounded. He listened in a daze for the time it took to brew a cup of tea. Dongfang Qianghao's endless confession was like a gem, and every word was brilliant. If he wrote it, it would be even more wonderful than the 4 great clans' declaration of collusion. In the end, Dongfang Qianghao said, "Therefore this old subject is willing to lead the disciples of the 4 great families and be your Majesty's vanguard. We will kill the strange insects, destroy the enemies outside, and return peace to the 3 continents." After saying that, Dongfang Qianghao knelt in the air and bowed his head to beg for forgiveness. "Give it a tip, and thank you for all your support." Chapter 4653. Dongfang Qianghao, Shimen Jianzhong, Nangong Tian, Baiming Chuiqing, and the millions of disciples from the 4 aristocratic families did the same. Immortal Emperor Gaochen looked at the 4 aristocratic families that were still hidden by the innate 4 cardinal flags and hesitated for a moment. Then he waved his hand and revealed the Emperor's sword and supreme heavenly mirror. He laughed and said, "Dongfang, Shimen, Nangong, and Baiming, please rise." The saint once said, "How can a man be infallible? A man who corrects his mistakes is a gentleman." The 4 aristocratic families haven't been to the Immortal Palace for a long time, and I haven't been to the hidden Immortal Palace for a long time. Therefore, it's not strange for there to be a gap between us. From now on, I will visit the 4 aristocratic families, and you will also visit the Immortal Palace. I'm sure we won't have any more grudges between us. Especially now that the calamity of the 3 continents is coming. You and I are the commanders of the human race. Even if we die fighting the enemies from the outside, we can't cause trouble here. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Dongfang Qianghao and the other 3 aristocratic families all stood up. Immortal Emperor Gaochen saw this and didn't stay for long. He raised his hand and said, "Immortal soldiers of the 10 palaces of the Immortal Palace, march to the Lingyun Side Palace. I will live and die with the hidden Immortal Continent." Yes. The immortal soldiers and generals obeyed. They activated their clouds and set off. Dongfang Qianghao waved his hand and put away the Wuji apricot yellow flag when he saw that 30% of the soldiers had left. He ordered, "Soldiers, retreat." With Dongfang Qianghao's order, the Dongfang aristocratic family's troops readied themselves and cleaned up the mess. Shimen Jianzhong, Nangong Tian, and Baiming Chuiqing also put away the 5-element flags and prepared to retreat. Dongfang Qianghao glanced at Immortal Emperor Gaochen and bowed. "Your Majesty, I'll return to the faction first and wait for your orders." "Good." Immortal Emperor Gaochen helped Dongfang Qianghao up and said with a smile, "Let's forget about our grudges today. I hope we can work together to eliminate the enemies from the outside. Under your Majesty's wise leadership, the strange insects from the outside are nothing, Dongfang Qianghao said seriously. Haha, good. Thank you for your auspicious words. Immortal Emperor Gochen flew up and smiled. May my Confucian Legion succeed. Your Majesty. Seeing that Immortal Emperor Gochen was about to leave, Xian also moved. Xiaohua hurriedly shouted. Don't forget what you said at the Southern Heaven Gate. Immortal Emperor Gochen stopped in midair and pondered for a moment before nodding. All right. Since Master Xiao Lei has rescued Xian, I will agree to your marriage proposal. However, now that the calamity is upon us, we don't have the time to play matchmaker for you. Let's talk about this after we kill the strange insect. Moreover, if you want to marry the princess of the Immortal Palace, my most beloved daughter, if you can't take out a fortune worthy of my Xian, don't even think about stealing Xian away. Hearing Immortal Emperor Gochen mention her marriage in front of so many people, Princess Xian shyly lowered her head and hid in front of her chest. Xiaohua was overjoyed when he heard this. Just as he was about to thank Immortal Emperor Gochen, he rolled his eyes and pushed the boat with the current. Your Majesty, if that's the case, why don't we strike while the iron is hot? This humble servant will take out a gift worthy of the 9th princess. You only need to say one word, and this humble servant is willing to contribute to the eradication of the insects in the 9 regions. Oh. Immortal Emperor Gochen was stunned. He smiled and said, So Master Xiao Lei already had a plan? I just don't know what kind of gift you have prepared. It's actually worthy of the princess of the Immortal Palace? The patriarchs of the 4 great clans are here. Xiaohua smiled and said, Let them be witnesses and see if this gift of mine is suitable. Boom. While speaking, Xiaohua opened his mouth and the 9 regions cauldrons flew out. The 9 regions cauldrons landed in midair. Boom, boom, boom. Another 9 layers of vast energy pillars fell down. Under the 9 regions cauldrons, 9 layers of fate energy swarmed out and turned into 9 dragons that danced around the cauldrons. 9 regions cauldrons. Not only was Immortal Emperor Gochen surprised, but Dongfang Qianghao and the others also turned pale with fright. They hurriedly said, This. How did the 9 regions cauldrons end up in your hands? Don't worry, Your Majesty. Xiaohua smiled and said, This Xiao is not a thief who stole the cauldrons. Your Majesty, please listen to this Xiao in detail. Then, Xiaohua told the story of how he met the demon refining gourd at the Jade Pavilion conference, and how he killed Kong Hongwu. Finally, he said, This Xiao obtained 5 9 regions cauldrons from Kong Hongwu's Cosmos bag. Then, this Xiao found out that Kong Hongwu was a secret agent of the Heaven's Secret Hall through Star-Plucking Pavilion. That's why I suspected the Hall Master of the Heaven's Secret Hall, Xie Xian. Then Your Majesty personally killed Xie Xian. Damn it. Immortal Emperor Gochen finally understood. Dongfang Qianghao and the others also suddenly understood. Xie Xian really deserves to die 10,000 times. Immortal Emperor Gochen said fiercely. For his own selfish desires, he actually disregarded the fate of the Confucian cultivators and the survival of the human race. He wanted to steal the 9 regions cauldrons for himself. If Master Xiao Lei didn't discover it in time, I'm afraid I would have fallen into his trap. Master Xiao Lei, your contribution is great. These 9 regions cauldrons are absolutely worthy of Princess Xian. However, Immortal Emperor Gochen said with difficulty, This 9 regions great formation is easy to break, but to set it up again is extremely difficult. As far as I know, if it wasn't for 9 9th level origin energy experts with the same cultivation level and telepathy working at the same time, the 9 regions cauldrons wouldn't have been able to smoothly fall into the 9 regions of the hidden immortal continent. Your Majesty, Dongfang Qianghao hastily said from afar. This old servant suddenly remembered. Was it because the 9 regions great formation was broken that there was a gap between our 3 continents and the outside world? Was that why that strange insect could sneak into our hidden immortal continent? That's right, it's that damn Xie Xian. Immortal Emperor Gochen nodded vigorously. Xiaohua said with confidence. Your Majesty, Does the Immortal Palace have a way to set up the 9 regions great formation? If possible, please give it to this Xiao. This Xiao is willing to give this great gift to your majesty, and protect your majesty's foundation for eternity. Good. Immortal Emperor Gochen was also very happy. Since that's the case, this emperor allows it. As long as you set up the 9 regions great formation, and eliminate the problem of the strange insect, this emperor will announce to the world that Xian will marry into the Xiao sect. Thank you, your majesty. Xiao Hua shouted loudly as he looked at Xian, who was trembling with excitement. Xian. Immortal Emperor Gochen waved his hand, and a rainbow-colored jade crystal fell in front of her. He ordered, "This emperor orders you to teach the 9 regions great formation to Master Xiao Lei, and assist him in setting up the formation to contain the hidden immortals." This son accepts the order. Thank you, your majesty. Xian reached out her small hand. Her snow-white soft hand was now the color of a rose. She received the jade crystal, and replied with a trembling voice. "When Chu Palace Master?" Immortal Emperor Gochen said again. "You have already helped Master Xiao Lei find Xian. Can you follow this emperor back to the Ling Yin side palace today?" This servant obeys the order. When Chu saw that Xiao Hua was happy and nodded, he accepted the order and flew up to the clouds with Immortal Emperor Gochen, Sun Jian, and Taibai Jinxing before disappearing into the clouds. After the soldiers left, Dongfang Qianghao stared at Xiao Hua for a long time, then bowed and said, "Taoist Master Xiao, I always thought you were a scheming person, but this time in Longevity Town, I saw you achieve the Buddha fruit of Nanwa Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva. This is really unexpected. Even though I look down on the Buddhist fruits, I especially admire the Buddhist fruit of the Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva, because the words Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva can't be proven without a truly merciful heart and benevolence. Thinking about how enlightened being brought back more than 500,000 disciples from the 4 clans, I have nothing else to say. Today, if it wasn't for enlightened being forcing us to abdicate, His Majesty might not have let us go. If we fought, the insect problem wouldn't have been eliminated. Thus I still have to thank enlightened being." You're welcome. Xiao Hua helped Dongfang Qianghao up with a smile and said, "I've always been muddle-headed in small matters. If I offended the 4 clans because of some small details, I hope fellow Immortal Dongfang and the 3 clans' patriarchs can forgive me." At this time, other than Nangong Tianji, who was organizing his troops in the distance, Shimin Jianzhong and Baiming Qiuqing also flew over and cupped their fists. Actually, after we returned to our sects, we have a very high opinion of enlightened being. If it wasn't for His Majesty's plan, we wouldn't have fought. Forget it. At this time, Xiao Hua was too lazy to care about the truth of these people's words. He waved his hand and said, "The insect is already at our door. Fellow Taoists, please hurry and discuss how to kill it. I have seen this insect before, and it is extremely powerful. Moreover, according to my calculations, the insect that appeared before was only the tip of the iceberg. There are billions of them inside the spatial cracks, so you can't be careless. After I return to the Fortune Gate, I will write down the method to kill this insect, and send it to the 3 continents through the star-plucking tower." Good. The 3 clans' patriarchs clapped their hands and said, "Enlightened being Xiao is indeed worthy of being called Guanyin Bodhisattva." Then the 4 clans also left. Xiao Hua watched the group of Confucian disciples leave on clouds, leaving behind countless legends on the hidden immortal continent. Even his golden Buddha statue that had just been completed had now lost its rightful glory. Xiao Hua's heart was filled with emotions. After the sutra-seeking extreme bliss ended, the Buddhist sect was supposed to be the main character, and Chunzeng was supposed to be the main character. However, the Fortune Gate of the Taoist sect appeared, and he led a group to steal the Buddhist sect's glory. When the golden Buddha statue of Guanyin Bodhisattva transformed, the Buddhist sect's face was completely trampled on. Then, Chunzong created more problems and still wanted to seek sutras from the west. Then the traitorous 6-eared macaque appeared, once again exposing the Buddhist sect's secret. And just as Immortal Emperor Gaochen sat on the mountain and watched the tigers fight, everyone fell into the ambush of the 4 clans. The 4 clans' swords were aimed at the Immortal Palace's throne. Seeing that the four supreme experts were helpless, the immortal emperor's subordinate, Princess Xian, appeared out of nowhere. With a mystic origin water control flag, she broke the innate four cardinal formation that no one could break, allowing the immortal palace to completely turn the tables and surround the four clans. Seeing that the war was about to break out, and nearly 1 million lives were about to be exterminated, the alien insect appeared, and the three continents' apocalyptic omen was born, stopping the human race's tragedy. The strange changes in the world were all revealed in the Longevity Town. At this time, when Xiaohua thought about it, he was also filled with emotions. Chapter 46-54. Dongfang Qionghao's words of thanks. Xiaohua was truly worthy of it. The battle between the Buddhas and the immortals in the town of Longevity had become secondary. The most important thing was the battle between the militarists and the four great clans. The Great Sage Temple and the Thunder Temple could only watch from the sidelines. If it wasn't for Xiaohua using the Fortune Gate's strength and his own cultivation to threaten immortal Emperor Go Chen, with immortal Emperor Go Chen's temperament, he might not have let go of this golden opportunity to exterminate the four great clans. Fortunately, with Xiaohua's kindness and the rise of the Fortune Gate, there was a third party that immortal Emperor Go Chen and the four great clans were wary of. Only then could they join forces to deal with the strange insect. Seeing that the monks of the Tidal River Temple had come out and were cleaning up the mess with lingering fear, Xiaohua smiled and looked at the Guanyin Bodhisattva, who was looking at the town of Longevity and the entire Yu province with benevolent eyes. Xiaohua opened his mouth and said, "Hundreds of years were like a dream. The parting at that time was like returning now. Whoever caused it, there will be consequences. Right and wrong, only the heavenly Tao knows. Namo Mithriya Buddha." Hehe, Xiaohua. What are you talking about? Princess Xian smiled and said, "I have never seen you so majestic. Even His Majesty was overshadowed by your brilliance. All of the brilliance is but a cloud before you. All of the prestige is no match for the gentleness in your eyes." Xiaohua said affectionately, "When the 9-province formation is completed, this husband will draw your eyebrows for you." Xian was originally shy when he heard this, but when Xiaohua said husband, he hastily frowned and said in a low voice, "Xiaolang, the titles of husband and wife, don't speak carelessly. Before performing the ceremony of husband and wife, it's improper." Huh? Xiaohua touched his nose awkwardly. He understood that Xian was a princess of the immortal palace, and had been learning Confucian etiquette since young. Fairy Hongxia and Shui were Taoist cultivators and didn't care about these things. He would have to be more careful in the future. Thinking about Fairy Hongxia and Shui, Xiaohua's heart moved. He wanted to tell Xian, but he swallowed his words. Although Confucian cultivators emphasized 3 wives and 4 concubines, and Xian might not care about Fairy Hongxia, he had just proposed marriage in front of immortal Emperor Go Chen. Any woman would be unhappy if he told Xian. He had left Donrain mainland for several hundred years. Who knew if Fairy Hongxia had any other thoughts? Thus, Xiaohua decided to leave this matter for the future. Xian, I will be careful in the future. Xiaohua said. Xiaohua sighed. Xian blinked her eyes, smiling. She's Hua's. The two of them had only whispered a few words when Celestial Being and Thunderbolt Immortal flew over from afar. Seeing this, Xiaohua asked worriedly, "How's the situation around Longevity Town?" "I'll let you know." Thunderbolt Immortal smiled. "The 4 great clans are quite honest. Although they cut off the Liao River's flow, they also set up a forbidden array. The river water didn't flood the land of ordinary people, and didn't affect their livelihood because of the array." That's good." Xiaohua nodded slightly. After thinking for a while, he took out the Kunlun mirror. Under the light, Taoist Witch and his disciples flew out. Xiaohua ordered, "Return to the Fortune Tao Palace first and discuss the matter of resisting the alien insects. This matter is of great importance. It's comparable to the heavenly demon's destruction of the world." Hiss. The disciples were shocked and didn't dare to delay. After saluting, They flew back to the soaring Dragon Mountain range. After everyone left, Xiaohua smiled and said, Xian, why don't you come with me to a place? Oh, where? Xian didn't understand. Is there anything more important in this world than the alien insects? Of course. Xiaohua moved his body, and with a wave of his hand, he held Xian's small hand in his. Seeing that there was no one around, Xian obediently let Xiaohua hold his hand, just like that day in the flower pavilion. Then he heard Xiaohua say, Don't you want to know what happened in these 300 years? Don't you want to know how I cultivated to the Mahayana realm in 300 years? Of course I do. Xian narrowed her eyes and looked at the setting sun. The red clouds fell on Xian's face, making her look especially shy. Xian moaned. My memories are still stuck in the past. Everything now is like a dream. It's like 10,000 dreams of yearning. Xiaohua held Xian's hand and flew up into the sky. Their figures landed on the ground and slowly elongated, just like the countless couples in the world. At this moment, they were comparable to the eternity of the world. Jiangshui Town was a small town near the coast of the East Sea in Liangqi County of Jing Province. The town wasn't big, and the people were simple. In the southwest of the town, there was a family with the surname Qin. This family was originally a scholarly family in Jiangshui Town, and had a history of several hundred years. Unfortunately, this family didn't have many descendants. Every generation, there was only one son. 60 years ago, they were still a small family. They didn't have any descendants and even became poorer. But later, the two elders of the Qin family brought back a daughter-in-law from the Qingyu Hall in the town's east. Their family's situation gradually improved. Today, the Qin family was divided into 5 branches. Each branch had 4 to 10 children, gradually showing the aura of a small family. Although 5 of the Qin family's sons had been separated, during the holidays, all of the family members had to return to the old house to pay their respects to the elders in the family. The scholar Chen Ming's parents had naturally passed away. The only person who accompanied him was his old wife. Chen Ming was familiar with poetry and books, but his old wife didn't know how to read and didn't have a name. Ordinary neighbors and juniors all respectfully called her Chen family's granny. The Chen family's granny was very benevolent and loved her family. She was even more filial to Chen Ming's parents. Chen Ming's parents were even closer to the Chen family's granny than to Chen Ming. Of course, Chen Ming's parents were good to the Chen family's granny not only because of their feelings for each other, but also because the Chen family's granny was good at managing the family. Because ever since the Chen family's granny married into the family, not only did the Chen family's financial situation improve, but in 10 years, the Chen family had added 6 sons. What made Chen Ming's parents unable to close their mouths was that these 6 sons were each more intelligent and strong than the next. Some were smart in reading, some were good at business. In short, every one of them was promising, and when they grew up, they would become outstanding. In the end, before Chen Ming's parents passed away, they still held the Chen family's granny's hand and sighed with emotion. Marrying this daughter-in-law was the Chen family's ancestral grave emitting green smoke. In the eyes of others, the Chen family's granny was good in everything, but there was one thing that no one understood. Even Chen Ming himself didn't understand it. That is, the Chen family's granny was kind to others, but never gave alms to the monks who came to beg for alms. Not only did she not give alms, but she also didn't allow her family to give alms. However, the Chen family's granny herself often went to a small temple about 100 li away from Jiangshui Town to give alms. Jiangshui Town originally didn't have a temple, but after Chuanzong's Nirvana Sutra, there were a few Buddhas from the Nirvana world who couldn't hold back their desire to become Buddhists. They followed Chuanzong's footsteps and began to develop their power in the hidden immortal continent. Jiangshui Town didn't have a temple, and the temple that the Chen family's granny went to was only one of the few small temples in Liangqi County. On this day, the sun was shining brightly. The sun hung in the west and gradually set. In the Chen family's courtyard, under the shadow of a large Chinese parasol tree, the Chen family's granny was lying on a recliner with her eyes closed. Under those eyelids, a pair of eyes were randomly rolling left and right. Two withered hands were tightly gripping the sides of the recliner, as if she was having a nightmare. Father. Suddenly, the Chun family's granny opened her eyes. 2 drops of turbid tears slowly flowed down her cheeks. Her eyes were filled with hatred and regret. After the Chun family's granny woke up, she was in a daze for a moment. Then she came to her senses. Just as she was about to wipe away her tears, a gust of wind suddenly blew in the courtyard. Woo! A cool breeze blew past, and a piece of leaf slowly drifted down from the Chinese parasol tree. I'm old this lifetime. The Chun family's granny raised her hand, and used her rough hand to wipe away the tears at the corner of her eyes. That piece of leaf just happened to fall on her knee. Just as the Chun family's granny was about to brush away the leaf from the Chinese parasol tree, 2 figures suddenly appeared and blocked the sunlight that shone on her. The Chun family's granny was not surprised because her juniors often came to greet her. Since she was old and sleepy, her juniors would often stand respectfully by her side. When she slowly raised her head and narrowed her eyes to look at the people who came, she could not help but be stunned. This was because the people standing in front of her were a man and a woman. The man was tall and thin with slanted eyebrows. Although he did not look particularly handsome, the aura between his eyebrows was incomparably gentle. Not to mention the slight smile at the corner of the man's mouth. It actually made the Chun family's granny, who was in her 60s, feel her heart skip a beat. If the man could make the Chun family's granny's heart grow grass, then the woman beside the man could really make the Chun family's granny suffocate. This woman was dressed in palace attire, and had a picturesque appearance. Although there was no special smile on her face, her moon-like eyes were filled with grace and gentleness. A feeling that made people want to worship her involuntarily rose in the heart of the Chun family's granny. Before the Chun family's granny could retract her gaze from the 2 people, the man asked in a gentle voice, "Are you Mao Chao?" Mao Chao. It was a familiar name, a name that she had not heard for a long time. A name that was deeply engraved in her memory. When she suddenly heard it, the Chun family's granny was stunned. Her body, which was about to straighten up, stiffened, and her heart turned cold. It was just like the moment she saw her mother fall to the ground and die. "Don't worry." The woman smiled faintly like a blooming spring flower. The Chun family's granny felt a little dizzy again. Give it a recommendation vote, bookmark it, or tip it. Thank you for all your support. Chapter 46-55. After half a cup of tea's time, the Chun family's granny finally calmed down. She very naturally turned her head and looked towards the central room. There was also a reclining chair at the entrance of the central room. That was where Chun Ming was reading. However, when the Chun family's granny's gaze fell on Chun Ming, she saw that he was holding an ancient book in his hand. He was squinting his eyes as he strenuously read it. Beside him, there was also a young page boy serving him. However, at this moment, the 2 of them were like clay sculptures. They couldn't even move. One was flipping through the book, while the other was holding a bamboo fan to light the stove. Not to mention them, even the flame in the small stove was still under the kettle. Great! Great master? The Chun family's granny seemed to understand something. She hurriedly struggled to get up from the reclining chair. That reclining chair could be swayed. Normally, the Chun family's granny would have to rely on the support of the younger generation to get up. At this moment, how could she get up in a panic? The man slightly smiled. He stepped forward and carefully helped the Chun family's granny up. When the Chun family's granny saw that the man was personally helping her, she was even more terrified. She hurriedly wanted to salute. The man waved his hand and said with a smile, "Don't be so polite. Although you are young, you are already senile. If you salute this old man will feel apologetic in his heart." The Chun family's granny felt a huge force stopping her. She simply stopped saluting and carefully asked, "Great master is looking for me. Is there a reason?" The man nodded. "This old man's name is Xiao Hua. You can call me Taoist Xiao. This old man came here today to verify something with you." At this point, Xiao Hua paused for a moment. The smile on his face disappeared. He asked, "Presumably you already know what it is." Taoist Xiao. The Chun family's granny was already old. She didn't hear Xiao Hua's last sentence clearly. Instead, she cried out in surprise, "You You are that Taoist Xiao? Xiaohua was stunned. He seemed to have thought of something. He glanced at Xian and asked, "This old man doesn't know the Taoist Xiao you are talking about. Who is it?" "Taoist Xiao. I am talking about that immortal rice." The Chen family's granny's face was filled with excitement. She said, "Taoist Xiao's rice. Oh, I should say. It's the immortal rice bestowed by Taoist Master Xiao." Chen family's granny's words were a bit unclear, and even a bit incoherent. However, Xiaohua heard it clearly. He rubbed his nose in embarrassment, nodded and said, "And you're right. I am that Taoist Xiao. Taoist Master Xiao, Taoist Master Xiao, you are truly a living bodhisattva." Granny Chen takes 2 steps forward, grabs Xiaohua's Taoist robe and says, 30 years ago, our Jiangshui town met with a disaster. All of our rice withered. If not for Taoist Zhao's immortal seed, my children would have starved to death. You are the real Guanyin Bodhisattva, who saves people from suffering. You are more merciful than Amitabha. After hearing the Chen family's granny say a few words, Xiaohua's mood calmed down. He smiled and said, "Since you know this old man, then this matter will be easy to handle. Take a look and see if you know him." As he spoke, Xiaohua waved his hand, and the imprisoned 6-eared macaque was pulled out. However, the 6-eared macaque had transformed into Zhen Kong's appearance. Ah! When Granny Chen saw the 6-eared macaque, she was shocked. Her eyes flashed with ruthlessness. However, in a moment, she hurriedly retreated, and in a hurry, her body fell backward. Xiaohua did not need to raise his hand, as Xian had already supported Granny Chen from the side. Granny Chen had just stabilized herself when she immediately turned her head and looked towards the direction of the central room. The hatred in her eyes disappeared, and instead, it was replaced by fear. "Chow Chow, don't be afraid," Xiaohua said warmly. "This beast has already been imprisoned by this old man. It can no longer harm others. Today this old man came to tell you the truth and avenge your parents." "Avenge? Avenge my parents?" When Granny Chen heard this, her originally stooped figure began to tremble. Her slightly fearful eyes lit up again, and her lips trembled as she said, But my parents' revenge has already been avenged." Xiaohua frowned slightly. After thinking for a moment, he pointed at the 6-eared macaque and said, "Do you think this is the real Zhen Kong or the fake Zhen Kong?" "This." Granny Chen hesitated for a moment, then looked at Xiaohua and Xian. She gritted her teeth and said, "This is the fake Zhen Kong." "But when Chuanzong asked you, why did you say it was the real Zhen Kong?" Xiaohua naturally knew that Granny Chen would say this, but he still asked the same question. "No, Master Chuanzong did not ask me." Granny Chen seemed to remember the situation clearly. She replied, "It was that big pig called Jinjie who asked me." Xiaohua naturally did not care about this detail. He waved his hand and said, "No matter who asked, this old man wants to ask you. You knew that this was not the real Zhen Kong, so why did you say he was the real Zhen Kong?" Ah! At this point, Granny Chen seemed to have understood. She laughed loudly and said, "Zhenren Xiao, you are an immortal. You don't know what this little girl was thinking. At that time, this little girl was just a child. I did not know who was good and who was bad. How could this little girl dare to speak blindly? Besides, the real Zhen Kong killed my parents, and I'm powerless to avenge them. This fake Zhen Kong killed the real Zhen Kong, and I can't even thank him enough. Why should I expose him? AI, why is hatred so deep in your bones?" Xiaohua sighed. "It's been almost 50 years, but you still haven't let it go." "How can I let it go? I originally had a father and mother who loved me. Although my home was shabby, with my father and mother, I had everything. It was also that afternoon that I met that Zhen Kong. In the morning, my mother kindly went to deliver food to them, but instead, she was killed by them. My father merely asked them a few questions before he was killed by them. My entire life has changed because of this matter. How can I let it go?" Granny Chen seemed to have buried this matter in her stomach her whole life. Today, she happily said it out loud. Tears fell from her eyes. "Do you know? Taoist Xiao, I was still dreaming just now. In the dream, I was eating the small fish my mother fried, and that damn Jin Kong rushed in and beat my mother to death with a stick. Although I can't remember mother's appearance, I still remember mother's bloodied clothes very clearly. Even now, I can still dream of this nightmare. How can you let it go? Namo Mithriya Buddha. Xiao Hua chanted the name of Buddha and said, "Actually, what you saw was only the surface." Then Xiao Hua told her the truth about Mao Chao's parents being controlled by the control bug. Finally, he said, "Actually, it was the six-ear macaque who did this. He controlled your parents to harm Chuanzong. That Jin Kong. He had no choice but to act in order to protect Chuanzong." "I know." Out of Xiao Hua's expectation, Granny Chen replied without hesitation. "When I was young, I didn't know. When I grew up, I understood. My parents must have been used by the fake Jin Kong. That's why they were killed by the real Jin Kong." It's good that you know." Xiao Hua nodded. The real Jin Kong was sent by this old man to protect Chuanzong, but he was killed by this six-ear macaque. Now that the sutra-seeking extreme bliss is over, this bastard scheme has been exposed. This old man wants to kill him to avenge Jin Kong. But he said that this old man doesn't have the right to kill him. In this world, the only one who has the right to decide whether he lives or dies is you. So this old man brought him here. Should I kill Jin Kong and let him go? Granny Chen was stunned. She stared at the six-ear macaque for a moment. The six-ear macaque's eyes didn't seem to be pleading. There wasn't even a trace of emotion. Granny Chen raised her head and looked at Xiao Hua. "Of course I should let him go. Why should I kill him? He helped me take revenge for my parents." "Ah." Xiao Hua was surprised. When he knew that the six-ear macaque was looking for Mao Chao, he already knew what the six-ear macaque meant. The six-ear macaque thought that Mao Chao didn't know that it was the six-ear macaque who used the control bug to control her parents. So Mao Chao thought that the six-ear macaque was the one who helped her avenge her parents. But what Xiao Hua didn't understand was that Mao Chao already knew that the six-ear macaque was the one who killed her parents. Why would he let the six-ear macaque go? Sai Jinren Xiao. Granny Chen sighed. "Don't you think it's strange? Why is it that I know that this six-ear macaque used my parents to kill them, but I still feel grateful to him and don't want him to die?" "Indeed." Xiao Hua nodded and rubbed his nose. Granny Chen raised her head and looked in the direction of the East Sea. She said in a low voice, "This place is not far from where I lived when I was young. But I never went back. Although the Qingyu Hall that Master Chuanzong sent me to was very good, and I had good food and drink, and I even lived a good life in the Chen family. But all of this, it can't be compared to that broken house by the sea, because I don't have parents in this world. Even if I go back, I won't be able to see them. So I'm afraid that if I go back." Seeing that Granny Chen was reminiscing, Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. But he didn't interrupt her. After all, a tragic childhood had already affected this old woman's whole life. Fortunately, after a while, Granny Chen said again, "Jinren Xiao, although I'm old, I'm not stupid. Although the six-ear macaque used my parents, I don't hate him. Because there are too many people in this world who are scheming against each other, deceiving each other and using each other. Compared to these people, the six-ear macaque's methods are nothing. Taoist Master Xiao, in my entire life, I have only been to Liangqi County. Most of my time has been spent in Jiangshui town. My third son is a businessman. I have only followed him for 3 years in this small Jiangshui town. In those 3 short years, I have seen all kinds of strange ways of using people. If this small town is like this, then what about the whole Liangqi County? What about the whole Jing province? What about the whole hidden immortal continent? I often tell my son that other people can be used because they have value to be used. If a person has no value to be used, then there's no meaning to their existence. But after you use them, you must repay them. Even if you're scheming against them, don't be unscrupulous, and don't be ruthless. Because it's normal to use people, but unscrupulous means can take people's lives." Chapter 46-56. Xiao Hua sucked in a breath of cold air. He seemed to understand what Qiao Qiao wanted to say. Sure enough, Granny Chen cried again. "Six-ear monkey used my parents. I really don't hate him because he wanted to achieve his goal. He wanted to join the Sutra of Bliss, So he had to use some tricks. The one I hate the most is Zheng Kong. My parents were controlled by the six-eared monkey. Even if they were controlled, they couldn't possibly be Zheng Kong's match. Zheng Kong had the means to subdue my parents, but he just killed them with a single strike of his staff. Why? Does killing them with one hit make him look strong? Would he be able to obtain more merit through this? Why can't he tie them up? Why can't he let them live? Well, Xiaohua was speechless. He hesitated for a moment and said, once the control bug is placed in a person's body, that person is no longer the same person. Even if they aren't killed, they will go crazy. They will no longer be the same person. I'd rather see a crazy father and mother than a senseless father and mother. Granny Chen shouted hysterically. As long as I can see them, I'll be at ease. My sky won't fall. Sai, why is hatred so deep? Xiaohua actually understood Qiao Qiao's heart. He sighed. The hatred from decades ago made an old woman so stubborn. Actually, Xiaohua, Xian, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke up. You're also confused because of the situation. Aren't you also because of hatred? Aren't you also stubborn because of hatred? Boom. Xiaohua felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He was stunned on the spot and muttered to himself in a low voice, that's right. Because of hatred, Liao Chao couldn't tell who the real culprit was. She wholeheartedly wanted to avenge her parents, so she identified the six-eared macaque as Zheng Kong. Isn't that the same for me? I wanted to take revenge for Yuan Tongtian, so I didn't ask for the reason. Why did I insist on killing Six-Ear Monkey? Actually, thinking about it now, Liao Chao's words were not without reason. If Zheng Kong used a different method to imprison Liao Chao's parents, then looked for Manjushri Bodhisattva and Taibai Jinxing, there might be a way to save Liao Chao's parents. Of course, it would be very troublesome to find these two people. With Yuan Tongtian's personality, he would never lower his head to ask for help. He would only use the simplest method. But the price of Yuan Tongtian's saving effort was the loss of his parents' lives. Then what about this Xiao now? It is easy to kill the six-eared macaque, but the six-eared macaque is still a life, and it is the reincarnation of Ananda. Do I have a more troublesome way? Is this a troublesome method that I don't want to provoke? Xiaohua glanced at the six-eared macaque, lying on the ground and sighed. Sigh, as expected of Mahavairakana's first disciple, and also the first in wisdom. You didn't even beg for mercy, nor did you let the Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord, or the Mahavairakana world lord plead for mercy. You only brought me to meet an old man of the secular world, which put me in a dilemma. Xiaohua frowned, as if he couldn't make a decision. Xian didn't say anything and only accompanied him. After a while, Xiaohua took out the Kunlun mirror. A pillar of light flashed, and Chunzong appeared in midair. Great master? Chun family's granny was crying emotionally. However, when she saw Chunzong, she couldn't help but stop. She looked at Chunzang's appearance with teary eyes, which didn't change much. Lady Tanyu. Chunzong looked at Chun family's granny in confusion, not knowing what had happened. This is Liao Chao. Xian reminded. You have left the East Sea for almost 50 years. She is also old. Liao Chao. Chunzong immediately understood, and looked at Chun family's granny with a sigh. Chun family's granny couldn't hold it in anymore. She threw herself at Chunzang's knees as if she was a child who saw her parents. She cried, Great Master. Liao Chao. Chunzong didn't hesitate. He stroked Chun family's granny's snow-white hair, and asked gently, How have you been all these years? Good. Chun family's granny was sobbing, but she still nodded vigorously, as if she was afraid that Chunzong would be worried. Seeing Chunzang's tears and Chun family's granny crying, Xiaohua glared at Six-Eared Macaque, and lifted his hand to remove the shackles on Six-Eared Macaque. He said coldly, Liao Chao, no matter what, this is her business. I didn't say that I would let you go. Yes, Bodhisattva. Six-Eared Macaque said respectfully. I understand. Actually, I invited Bodhisattva here to let you know. Bodhisattva, it's not wrong to let Fire Ape protect Master Chunzong, but to let him participate in the sutra seeking extreme bliss is really inappropriate. I don't know if Bodhisattva is aware that the fire ape has protected Master for 200 years. It has killed 2,078 Tao sect cultivators, and as many as 4,601 demons. Bodhisattva, that's almost 10,000 lives. If Master Chunzong had not advised Fire Ape again and again to be merciful, he would not have cared about the lives of the human race. His magic wand has never spared anyone's life. Bodhisattva, tell me, what's the use of bringing the bloody Mahayana Sanzang to the Zhongxian continent? Xiaohua narrowed his eyes. He really did not know what six-eared macaque was talking about. But when he thought about Yuan Tongtian's arrogant personality, he knew that six-eared macaque would not dare to lie to him. After all, Yuan Tongtian was a demon. In the eyes of the demons, the lives of the human race were not precious. Of course, those Taoist cultivators and demons who were tricked by Yuan Tongtian also had ulterior motives. Some of them even deserved it. Xiaohua had personally killed one of them in the snowy mountains. But when Xiaohua heard that so many humans and demons were killed by Yuan Tongtian, he could not help but feel a little shocked. Also, Bodhisattva, do you know why Fire Ape was imprisoned in Flaming Forest Swamp? Do you know why he went to Mount Million Meng to look for me? Six-eared macaque asked. When six-eared macaque mentioned Flaming Forest Swamp, Xiaohua's expression changed again. He hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Tell me. I don't want to talk about the specific reason. After all, Fire Ape is dead. If I talk about it after he's dead, it'll be like I'm trying to absolve myself. Six-eared macaque answered. I can only say that Fire Ape killed tens of thousands of Shui family disciples for some reason. That's why he was imprisoned under the lava. Shui family fell because of this. Shui family? Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He thought of Shui again. As for why Fire Ape came to Mount Million Meng to look for me, the reason is even simpler. Six-eared macaque sneered. He wanted to ask me for a secret technique to refine the Million Blood Orb. The Million Blood Orb. I don't need to tell you. I'm sure Bodhisattva already knows that it's refined with the blood essence of 10,000, 100,000, or even 1,000,000 living beings. Say no more. Xiaohua said coldly. That's all in the past. Ever since Yuan Tongtian came to the 3 continents, he has turned over a new leaf. Turned over a new leaf. Six-eared macaque sneered again. Bodhisattva, I don't know where Fire Ape learned those skills from. If I'm not mistaken, it must be Bodhisattva who taught him. It's because he learned those skills that he stopped using unscrupulous means to cultivate. It's also because Bodhisattva asked him to protect Master Chunzong. That's why he stopped killing people. If he really turned over a new leaf, he wouldn't have killed people on the path to seeking scripture. Then Six-ears macaque looked at Chun Tong and said, As for your disciple, besides the time I committed a crime in Million Meng Mountains and the time I killed the Fire Ape, I've never killed anyone in the past 1,000 years. Bodhisattva, I'm the one who's turning over a new leaf, right? You don't have to talk about others. You're also unscrupulous. Xiaohua said coldly. Why did you kill Master Huaqin in Mount Million Meng? Was it because of the rejuvenation pill? Didn't you also kill people for your own cultivation? The one you killed was a highly respected master craftsman in Mount Million Meng. Yes, I don't deny it. Six-eared macaque nodded. However, the rejuvenation pill wasn't my main goal. I'm good at listening, and I can see the truth. So, I know that some things can be done, and some things can't be done. As for the master craftsman that Bodhisattva mentioned, do you know how many soul beasts he had killed in order to craft artifacts? You're saying? Xiaohua narrowed his eyes. You know that after killing Master Huaqin, you'll be able to come to the Western Paradise? Yes. Six-eared macaque answered without hesitation. Then, do you know if I'll kill you this time? Xiaohua asked. Looking at the murderous intent on Xiaohua's face, Six-eared macaque answered honestly, I don't know anything about Bodhisattva, just like the Mahavairakana revered Buddha, Dipankara archaic Buddha, and Maitreya Buddha. Six-eared macaque hesitated for a moment. Then he narrowed his eyes and said, However, I do know that Bodhisattva has the power to kill me, but that's just power. Bodhisattva isn't heaven and earth. Bodhisattva doesn't have the right to punish me. Bodhisattva killed me based on his own preferences. Xiao Hua had already decided to kill him. That day in Longevity Town. Even when facing the Dipankara archaic Buddha, Xiao Hua did not hesitate to capture six-eared macaque, the victorious devil-slaying Buddha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha did not say anything either. On the way to Jiangshui Town, Xiao Hua had expected Liao Chao to react this way. However, he did not expect Liao Chao to not hate six-eared macaque, even though he knew that six-eared macaque was the culprit. On top of that, six-eared macaque had told Xiao Hua about Yuan Tongtian's misdeeds in the past and his killing today. Xiao Hua could not refute it. Chapter 46-57. In particular, there were two sentences that Xiao Hua was deeply moved by. The first one was, "Why is hatred so deep?" This was what Xiao Hua said to Mao Chao, and it was also what Xian said to Xiao Hua. Mao Chao could not let go of his hatred for Yuan Tongtian, and he himself had not let go of his hatred for six-eared macaque. In other words, he had no right to criticize Mao Chao. The second one was, Bodhisattva has the power to kill his disciple, but this is power. Bodhisattva is not heaven and earth, and Bodhisattva has no right to condemn his disciple. Bodhisattva kills his disciple because of his own preferences. This was what six-eared macaque said to Xiao Hua. If this was before, Xiao Hua would have harumphed and said, "I may not be heaven and earth, but I am the master of justice. I am heaven and earth, and I have the right to condemn you." Unfortunately, six-eared macaque in Yuan Tongtian's misdeeds, Xiao Hua could not rely on his love for Yuan Tongtian, and Yuan Tongtian's loyalty to him to say that he had the right to condemn him. But six-eared macaque did kill Yuan Tongtian, and Yuan Tongtian was under Xiao Hua's orders to protect Chunzong. Xiao Hua did have the right to kill six-eared macaque, to avenge Yuan Tongtian. Humph. Xiao Hua sneered and raised his hand. Six-eared macaque, no matter how glib your tongue is, I will not let you go. It's fine. Six-eared macaque closed his eyes and answered calmly, as if he was facing death. Bodhisattva, do as you wish. Xian wanted to say something, but she knew that since Xiao Hua had already made his decision, she shouldn't stop him, even if she felt that what Xiao Hua did wasn't particularly appropriate. At this moment, Granny Chun had stopped crying. She asked in a low voice, "Master, the sutra praying in nirvana has ended. Your merit has been completed. I'm sure Master is going to spread Buddhism in the Longevity Town and enlighten people. I dare not ask for anything, but there is a small temple about 100 miles away from Jiangshui Town. Can you go there and preach?" Chunzong put his palms together. "Ba, of course. But I can only preach for 3 days. After 3 days, I will still be going to the west." "Oh, Master." Granny Chun was surprised. "Didn't you already take the scriptures? Where are you going?" "Of course we're heading there." Chunzong smiled but did not answer. "Then," Granny Chun asked again, "who will protect the great master?" "This." Chunjia opened his mouth and said with a wry smile, "We still need the Buddha to send a fated person." Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat when he heard that. At the same time, Xian whispered, "Xiao Hua, it's easy to kill six-eared macaque, but six-eared macaque is still a life, and it's the reincarnation of Ananda. Why can't Xiao Hua think of a more troublesome way to make him atone for his sins? For example, escorting Chuanzong to the west to seek scriptures. Can it be considered as continuing Zhenkong's legacy and continuing to protect Chuanzong? If that's the case, then it's naturally good, but..." Xiao Hua nodded, but then he gritted his teeth and said, "This is really letting this fellow off too easily. Actually, it might not be cheap." Xian smiled and said, "The path of seeking sutras is very dangerous, and the future is unknown. In my opinion, it is much more troublesome than death." "Zhenkong." Xiao Hua thought for a while, then shouted, "Since that's the case, this old man will let you live in this life. However, from now on, not only must you protect Chuanzong well, you cannot return to the Pure Land if you don't go to the west to seek sutras. Also, the grudge between you and Yuan Tongtian in this life has already ended. If there is a next life, there must be a cause and effect. Are you willing?" Ba, this disciple is willing." Six-eared macaque heard Xiao Hua call him Zhenkong, and he understood what Xiaohua meant. When Xiaohua finished speaking, he didn't feel any joy or sorrow. He put his palms together and said, "This disciple is willing to use my strength to protect Master Chuanzong and seek sutras in the West. Of course, this disciple also hopes that when he sees Jinkong again, he will no longer be the bloodthirsty Jinkong. This is not something for you to think about. You just have to be yourself." Xiaohua replied calmly. "Many thanks, great merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva." Hearing Xiaohua let six-eared macaque go, Chuanzong was delighted. It wasn't that he liked six-eared macaque or Jinkong, but he didn't want Xiaohua to break the rule of killing, and he didn't want to see any living thing die. "Forget it." Xiaohua helped Chuanzong up and said, "Chuanzong, this old man will wait for you here for 3 days. When you finish your preaching, I will send you back to Longevity Town, and you can continue to seek sutras in the West." "Amitba," Chuanzong laughed. "Even the Bodhisattva is obsessed. As long as there are people who seek sutras, and have the heart to seek sutras, there is no Longevity Town." "Hehe, indeed, indeed." Xiaohua patted his forehead and laughed. "This old man is dizzy from Jinkong. This disciple doesn't dare." Six-eared macaque hurriedly replied. Xiaohua raised his hand and took out the Kunlun mirror. As it shook, Zhenjie also came out. When the Chun family's granny saw the big pig appear again, she couldn't help but tear up. "Granny? Who are they?" At this time, a lively and cute girl ran out from the central room. Seeing that Zhenjie and Jinkong didn't know fear, she asked in surprise. "Ah, Shuang." The Chun family's granny was shocked. She hurriedly looked over and saw that the people who were in prison just now were all moving, as if everything they saw was just a dream. However, at this time, Chuanzong, Zhenjie, and Jinkong were still beside the Chun family's granny. Xiaohua and Xian had already disappeared. This disciple respectfully sends off Guanyin Bodhisattva. Chuanzong and the others saw this and hurriedly put their palms together and bowed to the sky. The Chun family's granny also hurriedly kowtowed at whoosh. 3 scattered lights fell from the sky and landed in front of Chuanzong, Zhenjie, and Jinkong. The 3 of them looked over and saw that it was the 3 shaman puppets. Xiaohua's voice came from the sky. "This item is bestowed to the 3 of you. It can save you from a life or death disaster. When this item breaks, this old man will know and will appear in time. However, it is better to be safe than sorry. There is nothing absolute in this world. You all still have to rely on yourselves." "Thank you, Bodhisattva." Chuanzong was really happy. Just as he was about to thank Xiaohua, 2 emerald green pills fell in front of the Chun family's granny. Xiaohua's voice came again. "Chow Chow, Yuan Tong Tian caused your family to be destroyed. This old man will compensate for him. This is a Taoist pill. Although it is ordinary, it is extraordinary to ordinary people. You and your husband will each have one. After consuming it, it can extend your life by 100 years. Thank you, great Guanyin Bodhisattva." The Chun family's granny was very happy. She took the pills and kowtowed again. In the sky, Xiaohua and Xian had already flown far away. Xian looked at Xiaohua with her beautiful eyes and smiled. "Xiaohua, I didn't expect that the stingy you would have a generous time. Not only did you spare the 6-eared macaque's life, you also gave Chow Chow 2 pills. Those 2 pills are really nothing. If it was possible, this old man wanted to give her 2 rejuvenation pills. Unfortunately, the rejuvenation pills are not for ordinary people to consume." Xiaohua shook his head. "Of course, even the rejuvenation pills are nothing compared to the happiness Chow Chow lost. That's right, happiness is priceless." Xian seemed to have thought of something and said sadly, "Especially the happiness of being at the knees of father and mother." However, in just a moment, Xian realized that her words were inappropriate. She quickly forced a smile and said, "But Xiaohua, you can let go of your hatred. You are really the great Guanyin Bodhisattva. Sometimes, you have to let go even if you don't want to. Even if you don't want to let go." Xiaohua was about to explain when he suddenly stopped in midair. He looked into the distance and said coldly, "Since you're here, why don't you show yourself?" "Who?" Xian was shocked. A green light flashed in her hand, and she was about to take out the Xianyuan water control flag. Amitabha. A faint Buddhist chant came and a Buddhist light appeared in the sky not far away. This Buddhist light was like a lotus and a Buddha Lord stepped out from the lotus. However, this Buddha Lord was a little strange. Half of his golden body was shining like the sun while the other half was extremely dry and dark. Moreover, the light behind the Buddha Lord's head was half bright and half dark. Great! Mahavairākana, Venerable of the World? Although Xiaohua had never seen Mahavairākana, Venerable of the World, when he saw the Buddha Lord's aura, Xiaohua already understood. He couldn't help but cry out in surprise. You! What happened to you? Amitabha. Fate is tribulation and tribulation is karma. Mahavairākana, Venerable of the World's expression didn't change. He put his palms together and said, I made a mistake, so I naturally have to face tribulation. Hiss. Xiaohua took a breath and seemed to understand something. Not only did he not feel happy, but his heart sank. He took a breath and said in surprise, Venerable of the World, the real and fake chastity has such a big impact? Namo Great Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva is indeed the most famous bodhisattva in our Buddhism sect. Mahavairākana, Venerable of the World, didn't answer Xiaohua's question. Instead, he praised, although Bodhisattva used her physical body to prove the Buddhist fruit of our Buddhism sect, in the matter of the real and fake chastity, she didn't cause karma because of selfishness. She was merciful and showed the Buddha's heart, not stained by dust on the mirror platform. She is 100 times better than me. Amitabha. Xiaohua was even more shocked. A layer of cold sweat actually appeared on his back. He put his palms together and glanced at Xian. His eyes were full of gratification. Then he looked at Mahavairākana, Venerable of the World, and said, as Venerable of the World said, this matter. No need to say it, no need to mention it. Mahavairākana, Venerable of the World, smiled and said, there will be a time when the truth comes to light. At that time, all karma will be known. Amitabha, disciple understands. Since Xiaohua was the Namo Great Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva, he naturally had to meet Mahavairākana, Venerable of the World, as a disciple. Chapter 46-58. Did Ananda explain everything clearly? The Mahavairākana, Revered Buddha, asked. Yes. Xiaohua nodded. This matter started by me, and it will also end by me. All the karma in this world will end today. Although it's your fate, it's also my fault. As Mahavairākana, Revered Buddha, waved his hand, layers upon layers of Buddha's light flashed. Images appeared in the Buddha's light. They were the scenes after Tua Chao left the fishing village with Chuanzong. A few years ago, the souls of a man and a woman flew out of the 6 paths of reincarnation and were born in the Chen family. After the woman was born, she was the little girl that Xiaohua saw in the Chen family. When Xiaohua saw this, he naturally understood that this was the Mahavairākana world revered one using Buddhism sect's supernatural power to protect Mao Chao and the Chen family. Although Xiaohua did not recognize the man and woman, he clearly knew that these were the souls of Mao Chao's parents. When Mao Chao was young, he did not have the chance to enjoy the happiness of a family reunion. When he was old, he was reborn with his parents and continued the family reunion. Amitabha. Xiaohua nodded. Revered one, it's not too late to mend the pen. It's too late. All the compensation can't compare to the previous pain. The Mahavairākana, Revered Buddha, shook his head. Xiaohua smiled. Revered one, you didn't come here today to tell me this, right? This is one of them. The Mahavairākana, Revered Buddha, shook his head. Then he activated his ability, and a hall filled with Buddha lights appeared. In this hall, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha, Revered Buddha, the Mahavairākana, Revered Buddha, and the Maitreya Buddha, Revered Buddha, were sitting cross-legged on the 9 Buddha lotus. In front of the 3 Buddha lords, the Namo Great Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva, the Namo Great Compassion Manjushri Bodhisattva, and the Namo Virtuous Samantabhadra Bodhisattva were also standing. However, as the Buddha lights flashed, a monkey in a monk's robe was seen holding an iron rod in his hand. He hit the head of a 6-eared macaque, and the 6-eared macaque died on the spot. Seeing this, Xiaohua frowned. Revered one, what's the meaning of this? Could it be that you want me to see Yuan Tong Tian being killed again? Amitabha. The Mahavairākana, Revered Buddha, chanted. Can't the Venerable see it? In an instant, Xiaohua suddenly realized that he had never been to the Lane Temple. But if this Lane Temple was the Lane Temple of the three continents, then when Ananda killed Yuan Tongtian, how could the Lane Temple have Namwu Great Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva? If Maitreya Buddha World-Honored One was present, how could Maitreya Buddha World-Honored One let Ananda run amok? Xiaohua said in astonishment, "Disciple understands. Revered One of the world, could it be that this is also karma?" "Sai, that's right." Mahavairakana Revered Buddha sighed and said helplessly, "That day, the six-eared macaque reincarnated by Ananda actually committed a crime in front of me. It really made me furious. However, because I changed, I didn't notice it at the time. Later, when I checked the karma, I realized Ananda was originally a human. He entered the cycle of reincarnation and was reincarnated as a six-eared macaque. That was why he inherited the six-eared macaque's karma. His killing of Yuan Tongtian was an instinct. It could also be said that it was the result of the six-eared macaque's physical body. It might not have been his original intention." Xiaohua was dumbfounded. He smiled bitterly and said, "Revered One of the world, this kind of karma, isn't it too complicated?" Unfortunately, Mahavairakana Revered Buddha didn't answer Xiaohua. Instead, he said, "There's another thing." As he spoke, Mahavairakana Revered Buddha waved his hand again. Yuan Tongtian's corpse appeared, and the five-colored crystal was also taken out. Xiaohua's eyes lit up. He raised his hand to take the crystal. However, he thought for a while and relaxed his hand. He said, "Revered One of the world, I believe you have already heard what disciple said to Ananda earlier. Disciple has just attained the Bodhisattva Buddha fruit. I'm afraid it's not good for me to interfere with the cycle of reincarnation. Moreover, I'm too soft-hearted. I can't restrain Yuan Tongtian very well. Why don't we leave this matter to you?" Amitba. Mahavairakana Revered Buddha also thought for a while and nodded. "Leave this matter to me. The karma of this life is temporarily like this. In the next life, we'll do it again and return the karma to this fire ape." As he spoke, Mahavairakana Revered Buddha looked at the fire ape's soul inside the five-colored crystal and said, "I believe that after being nourished by the heaven-mending stone, the fire energy of this flame will slowly subside, right? I also hope that the Thunder Temple's Buddhist voice can eliminate the fire ape's evil energy. Since I've troubled you, then disciple will also add flowers to brocade." Seeing this, Xiaohua raised his hand and summoned Yuan Tongtian's corpse in front of him. With a point of his finger, the sun-moon corona on the corpse appeared. Xiaohua's hands formed seals again. Where the crystal light landed, the sun-moon corona turned into a golden hoop. Xiaohua kept Yuan Tongtian's corpse, but gave the golden hoop to Mahavairakana Revered Buddha. He said, "This thing can be used as a tight hoop. If his fire nature is still not extinguished in the next life, use this thing to subdue him." Amitba. Mahavairakana Revered Buddha took the golden hoop and nodded. "I hope they have a happy ending in the next life. Let's completely end this karma." And Xiaohua smiled bitterly. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. Seeing that the six-eared macaque's matter had been settled, Xiaohua looked at Mahavairakana Revered Buddha and asked, "Amitba, the timing of your tribulation is really not right. The alien strange insects have already started to destroy the world. You still have to lead the Thunder Temple to resist the strange insects." Amitba. Immortal Emperor Gochen has already issued a decree in the Lingyun Side Hall, inviting the supreme experts of the three continents, 3 rivers, and 4 seas to participate in the Jade Pool gathering 20 days later. Mahavairakana Revered Buddha put his palms together and said, "Bodhisattva, let's talk about it when you're there." "Talk about it?" Seeing that Mahavairakana Revered Buddha didn't care, Xiaohua was shocked. He hurriedly reminded him, "Revered Buddha, that strange insect is really powerful. Revered Buddha, please don't let your guard down. The warning signs of annihilation have already explained everything." "Yes, I know." Mahavairakana Revered Buddha nodded. "I have already asked Dipankara Archaic Buddha to prepare for battle." Revered Buddha. Hearing Mahavairakana Revered Buddha's words, Xiaohua's heart unknowingly fell into an ice cellar. He earnestly advised him again. Disciple really has to remind revered Buddha again. This time the strange insect is really powerful. Disciple has already encountered it before. Then, Xiaohua recounted the bitter battle he experienced in the Void and the Dragon Island. Mahavairakana, revered Buddha, was calm. He smiled and asked, "What was your cultivation at that time?" This. Xiaohua was at a loss for words. After a while he replied, "Disciple was only around the 5th grade of essence force at that time." But Mahavairakana, revered Buddha, didn't interrupt Xiaohua's words. However, after Xiaohua said, but he couldn't say anything else. After a while, Mahavairakana, revered Buddha, smiled and said, "Bodhisattva, after hearing your words, I thought of a story." Xiaohua was stunned and said curiously, "Revered Buddha, please speak. Have you seen the white elephant of Samantabhadra Bodhisattva of the Namo Great Path?" Mahavairakana, revered Buddha, asked. Xiaohua shook his head. Disciple hasn't seen it before. Yes. Mahavairakana, revered Buddha, said again. There are also elephants in the secular world. However, they are grayish-yellow in color. This gray elephant is very powerful. In the Pure Land, it is a powerful creature. It is comparable to the dragon race. People often use the dragon elephant's power to describe it. However, this gray elephant's temperament is very docile. If a small gray elephant is tied to a big tree with a thin rope, the small gray elephant will definitely struggle. However, at that time the small gray elephant's strength is very small. It will definitely not be able to break free from the rope and the big tree. When the small gray elephant grows into a big gray elephant, its strength is enough to overturn the big tree. However, it won't break free from the thin rope. Because it always thinks that it can't break free from the thin rope. It doesn't know that it has already grown up. Back then, Bodhisattva was only at the 5th grade of essence force. He had to use all his strength to kill the strange insect. Therefore, he felt that the strange insect was very powerful. Now Bodhisattva has cultivated to the highest realm in such a short time. I'm afraid that some of you haven't reached the supreme realm yet, right? Zai, revered one of the world. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. I'm not a small gray elephant. That strange insect is also not a thin rope. I've only met 1 or 2 strange insects, and they are already so powerful. In the eye of the West Sea, I've seen hundreds of millions of them. So what if there are hundreds of millions of them? At this point, Mahavairakana, revered one of the world, simply answered. The 3 continents have the laws of heaven and earth. Those strange insects can't surpass the 9th grade of essence force. Since they can't surpass the 9th grade of essence force, the supreme experts of Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, and demon sects will definitely have the ability to kill them. Moreover, you've been to the 1,000 demons sacred realm. How many demons are there? How many great sages are there? It's impossible that all of these strange insects are at the 9th grade of essence force. Among the hundreds of millions of strange insects, it's already not bad that there are thousands of 9th grade essence force. Also, the so-called apocalyptic warning is just a reminder. It's not like the 3 continents didn't experience it before. What about now? The 3 continents are still the 3 continents. The human race is still the human race. The demon race is still entrenched in the 1,000 demons sacred realm. Of course, it's not wrong for you to be careful. Why would immortal Emperor Gochen urgently send an imperial edict to invite us to the Lingyun side palace? Remember, you must go. Otherwise, the 4 great clans won't go. Our human race will still be in chaos. Alright. Mahavairakana, revered one of the world, said so much that Xiaohua couldn't refute. He could only helplessly say, Disciple respectfully sends off the revered one of the world. Mahavairakana, revered one of the world's palms clasped together, and bid farewell. Then he stepped into the void and disappeared. Damn it! Xiaohua cursed and said. The apocalyptic warning is already so obvious. Why aren't they alert yet? Darling Xiao. Xian said softly, those strange insects. Are they really that powerful? I hope that by this time, you can leave a message in the book review and comment section. Thank you. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe, vote, donate, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 46:59. How could it not be powerful? Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. If it wasn't powerful, how could I have doubted when he spoke up to hear? Xiao Hua came to a sudden realization, and he said with extreme embarrassment and rage, "Damn it! Gaochen old man and the 4 great clans didn't care about these strange insects at all. They only stopped because they were afraid of me. They only saw the strange insects as a stepping stone." Hearing Xiao Hua call immortal Emperor Gaochen old man Gaochen, Xian was a little embarrassed, but she understood Xiao Hua's feelings. She said in a low voice, "There are still 20 days left, you can go to the Jade Lake and talk to them." Sigh, if words can be spoken clearly, why would there be a need for blood? Xiao Hua sighed. Even someone as strong as Virokana didn't care. How could immortal Emperor Gaochen care? Yes, His Majesty cares about you. He cares about the Fortune Gate. Xian nodded. If it wasn't for the rise of your Dao Gate, His Majesty would have attacked the 4 great clans in the Longevity Town, and there wouldn't be a second outcome. Even if the strange insects appeared, only His Majesty cares about you. He is afraid that the Immortal Palace and the 4 great clans will both suffer losses, and you will be the fisherman who reaps the benefits. This was originally his own idea. Xiao Hua sneered. He really knows how to judge others by his own standards. On the way to River Town, Xiao Hua had explained everything to Xian. Xian naturally knew about the battle between the Fortune Gate and the 4 big families at Dawn and Dusk Cliff. Thinking about Xiao Hua's infatuation, Xian was also moved. She took the initiative to hold Xiao Hua's hand and said, "Xiao Hua, I really like how you treat me. In the hidden immortal continent, other than the legend of the gentle sword, there must be another story of Daoist Xiao shocking the entire Xinghan Empire to save the princess. However, Xiao Hua, you and your Fortune Gate rose too quickly, and your Dao Gate's foundation is incomparably weak. It's not that the Immortal Palace, Buddhist sect, and demonic beast race don't want to destroy your Fortune Gate. It's just that they haven't made a move yet, and you already have the same strength as them. If they want to destroy your Fortune Gate, they will suffer heavy losses. Therefore, they hadn't thought about how to lay out the plan and how to make a move. Especially now that the 4 great families are plotting a rebellion, and the sky-bearing palace is starting to show its prowess, they don't have the energy to consider all these things at the same time. Once they reach a compromise, your Fortune Gate will be in danger." When he spoke up to hear, Xian's eyes spun for a moment before he continued. "Besides that, just as you said earlier, your disciples are at most at the lower level of the 8th grade of origin energy, whereas you and your good friends have already attained the peak of the 9th grade of origin energy. It's impossible for all of you to wait until your disciples cultivate to the middle level of the 9th grade of origin energy before ascending. For a sect to be able to last for 10,000 years, the distribution of the strength of the disciples should be like a sand dune, wide at the bottom and long at the top. It was impossible for there to be a gap in the middle. The strength distribution of Fortune Gate disciples was like a spindle, extremely unreasonable. The Fortune Gate's current glory depends on your own strength. If you ascend, your Fortune Gate will perish. Without the foundation of the Dao Gate, the Fortune Gate's glorious moment was the beginning of its destruction. Moreover, the more glorious it is, the faster it will be destroyed. Actually, this is the Grand Mist Ancestor's lesson. He was too arrogant in the past, which was why he was suppressed by the Immortal Palace, Buddhist sect, and Great Sage Temple. After he escaped, he kept a low profile. If not for the rise of your Fortune Gate today, he would never have appeared in front of His Majesty. Xian lightly grasped Xiao Hua's hand and reminded, his appearance also satisfied the Immortal Palace and Buddhist sect's request. They know that while the Grand Mist Ancestor relies on you, he is also nibbling away at your forces. In this aspect, you are far inferior to the Grand Mist Ancestor. The Immortal Palace and Buddhist sect will definitely support the Grand Mist Ancestor to go against you, just like how the Immortal Palace wanted to support you to go against the Grand Mist Ancestor. In my opinion, if your Fortune Gate wants to survive in the 3 continents, other than hiding your strength, you need to find a backer. I see that you have a good relationship with the 2 great sages from the Great Sage Temple. Why don't you use the 3 demon territories to move the fortune gate to the 1,000 demons' sacred domain? Moreover, don't you have the title of Dragon Island's Dragon Master? That is also useful. The 1,000 demons' sacred domain has the Great Sage Temple and the Fortune Gate. The hidden immortal continent has the Immortal Palace, and the Western Paradise has the Thunder Temple. It should be more balanced. Xiaohua naturally wouldn't tell Xian the secret of the Shenhua continent, but when he heard Xian's plan, he used a finger to scratch Xian's palm. Xian found it itchy and used 3 fingers to scratch at the same time. Although Xiaohua didn't itch, he still pretended to shrink back. Then he pulled his hand out and pulled Xian into his embrace. Xian hurriedly looked left and right. When he saw that there were only clouds hiding him, he sighed in relief. He leaned his head on Xiaohua's shoulder and closed his eyes, looking like he was enjoying himself. Seeing several light pillars fall on Xian's face like a painting brush, turning into a peerless beauty, Xiaohua smiled and kissed Xian's smooth forehead. Ooh! Xian liked Xiaohua's kiss very much. He opened his mouth slightly and blew on Xiaohua's neck. A fragrant breath came, and Xiaohua saw 2 red lips. Xiaohua couldn't help but feel his heart beat wildly. His lips slid down Xian's eyebrows. No. Xian was slightly anxious. He covered Xiaohua's mouth with a snow-white finger and said in a low voice, "Xiaohua, don't be anxious." "And I know." Xiaohua took a deep breath and kissed Xian's finger. He raised his head and looked at the clouds in the distance. He smiled and said, "You've planned so much for me. What if there comes a day when my fortune gate goes against the Immortal Palace?" When he said this, a distant memory suddenly rushed into Xiaohua's mind. The sun was setting in the west, and the sky was filled with red clouds. It was a beautiful scene. The misty peak was whistling, the trees were shaking, and clothes were fluttering. Under the gaze of tens of thousands of people, there was a middle-aged man in white with a calm expression. In front of that man was a woman whose face was as pale as paper. Wasn't that sect leader Peng and his wife Yang Rupiying, who stood at the peak of the misty peak? Although Xiaohua didn't see the misty end with his own eyes, this story had been engraved in his heart. Xiaohua, who was gradually soaked in memories, was suddenly awakened by Xian's laughter. Looking at Xian who didn't cooperate with his mood, Xiaohua said helplessly, "What's so funny? Do you think His Majesty is stupid? As long as you don't ascend, he definitely won't start a war with you. Do you think Master Lightning was bestowed upon you by His Majesty for no reason? With the title of Master Lightning, you can't lead an army to attack the Immortal Palace. Otherwise, you'll be treacherous and offending your superiors." Xian laughed and said, "Moreover, if you ascend, His Majesty will first use me to control your fortune gate and nibble away at your fortune gate. But, will your disciples be convinced by me? This kind of thankless task, I won't do it. Therefore, you don't have to worry. I'll just take care of Fairy Xing Yu's star-plucking tower. I won't let you down, and I won't let His Majesty down." That's true. Xiaohua rubbed his nose and said with a bitter smile, "I thought too simply." It wasn't that Xiaohua thought it was simple, but that there was nothing to compare. Of course, Peng and Yang Rupiying's situation was different from Xiaohua and Xian's, and Peng's strength couldn't be compared to Xiaohua's. "Look at your silly face." Xian rolled his eyes at Xiaohua, and said with some resentment and some pride, "I originally wanted to hide you in my heart. But you saved me. It's fine that you saved me, but you've cultivated to the supreme realm. What do you want me to do? How much longer can I accompany you? Forget it. Seeing that you've done so much for me, and everyone in the world knows about it, I'll reluctantly guard your reputation for the rest of my life." As he said this, Xian mischievously winked at Xiaohua again. When Xian said this, Xiaohua's heart trembled again. No, Xian was completely right. He saved Xian from the Immortal Emperor's suppression, but his story with Xian had already spread across the 3 continents. He was already at the peak of the 9th grade of essence energy, And even a normal cultivator would have to undergo tribulation in less than 1,000 years. But what about Xian? Back then, due to her injuries, she was only at the 4th grade of essence energy when she explored the Mystic Water Palace with Xiaohua. Hundreds of years of recuperation, practicing the 5 Qis unifications, and refining the Mystic Origin Water Control Flag, had only allowed her to reach the 7th grade of essence energy. As the daughter of the immortal emperor, Xian's lifespan was bound to be very long, and whether he succeeded or not, he would have to leave Xian. From this point of view, he didn't just give Xian happiness, he also gave her a kind of burden and loneliness. Xian, I didn't think so much, Xiaohua said with a sad face. When I heard Bayan say that you were suppressed, I panicked. You mustn't blame me. Stop pretending. Xian smiled and poked Xiaohua's forehead with her white hand. I'm very happy that you treat me like this. You won't be able to find a lover like you anywhere in the world. That's good. Xiaohua smiled and said, it's good that my wife doesn't blame me. Call me Xian. Xian glared at Xiaohua. I'm not your wife, but seeing how you call me your wife so smoothly, it's completely different from the little monk from before. Is there a secret? I do want to have a secret, but the problem is. Xiaohua sighed. Can my secret hide from a true scholar? That's true. Xian smiled happily. In this world, there really isn't anyone with discerning eyes like me. Granny Wang, are you selling melons? Xiaohua asked with a smile. Chapter 4660. However, Xiaohua suddenly thought of something and said to Xian, a good friend of mine is visiting. It's not a good time for you to see him. Can you leave for a while? Xian smiled and said, it's fine. It's fine even if you have your own secrets. You have your secrets and so do I. Isn't that right? Xian blinked her eyes mischievously. Xiaohua smiled and said, these secrets are only temporary. You'll know about them in the future. Xian blushed and nodded slightly. Then, Xiaohua shook the Kunlun mirror and temporarily sent Xian into the Shenhua continent. Namo Mithriya, congratulations Bodhisattva. A lotus-like Buddha light appeared in the distance. As the Buddha light bloomed, Namo Mithriya flew out from it. Upon seeing Xiaohua, he put his palms together and smiled. Xiaohua looked at the Mithriya Buddha and said, what's there to congratulate? You're the Mithriya Buddha, and the Mahavairakana Buddha just left. When I, a Bodhisattva, see you, I have to call you my disciple. What's the point? Also didn't you think that I could attain the Buddha fruit? I won't hide it from you. The Mithriya Buddha smiled and said, I'm the Mithriya Buddha, and I control the future of Buddhism. Now all the Buddha lights are in the hands of the Mahavairakana Buddha. Also, even the Dipankara archaic Buddha, the Mahavairakana Buddha, and the Mithriya Buddha are only the appearances of the Buddha. Between heaven and earth, in the hearts of the Buddhas, there are countless Buddha lights. Who knows where the Buddha fruit is? Where does the river of faith flow? Also, you're merciful. The power of faith in the longevity town belongs to you. Not to mention me. Even the Mahavairakana Buddha can only envy you. Forget it. This matter has already come to an end. It's useless to talk about it. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, I'm sure the Mahavairakana Buddha already hates me. The Longevity Town Buddha sect's first golden Buddha statue consecrated. And such a huge mistake happened. Even if the world-honored one wants to hold a grudge, I'm afraid you won't dare to hold a grudge at that time. Moreover, I discovered Yuan Tongtian's matter too late. The Mithriya Buddha put away the smile on his face and did not say much. He only explained the cause of the matter in his heart. Ah, no way. After Xiaohua heard this, he couldn't help but exclaim, there's actually such a big that Mithriya Buddha nodded and replied, I'm afraid it can only be bigger. Okay, I understand. Xiaohua nodded and said, if you need anything, you can tell I've already sensed it, so I rushed over. The Mithriya Buddha said again. Xiaohua took out the golden sarira and handed it to the Mithriya Buddha, saying, this item came from the Star Moon Palace, but I don't understand. Is there a sarira more precious than the sarira of the previous Mithriya Buddha? Of course there is. Buddha Maitreya took the golden sarira and looked at it carefully. Then he put the golden sarira into the light behind his head and explained, "The Buddhist sect cultivates the 9 turns golden body. Even when the 3 Buddha lords are practicing, they can't guarantee that every doppelganger will come out unscathed. Therefore, the more doppelganger one cultivates, the greater the chance of losing one's doppelganger. There are even some extremely rare doppelganger that has just arrived at a certain realm and may die. Who knows which Buddha Lord left this golden sarira behind? However, it seems that the realm where this sarira is located is much higher than the 3 continents." "Okay, I'll leave this to you." Xiaohua took out the Kunlun mirror again and said with a smile, "In addition, this disciple also obtained some secret techniques, so this disciple invites you to enter the jar." Aha! The Maitreya Buddha seemed very happy. He stepped into the light pillar and disappeared. When Xiaohua put away the Kunlun mirror, the Maitreya Buddha said in Xiaohua's heart, "I won't talk to you when I leave, so as not to disturb your sweet time with Xian. Xiaohua was really speechless. He replied snappily, "Leave if you want. If you don't want the bodhisattva of the exquisite temple to wait, you can just stay here." However, the Namo Maitreya Buddha didn't answer. He naturally couldn't come out for too long. Xiaohua of the heavenly Tao and the enlightenment that Xiaohua sent into his mind didn't allow him to speak. Xiaohua took out the Kunlun mirror and let Xian out. As soon as it landed in the air, Xian said happily, "Darling Xiao, is this your Kunlun wonderland?" "Yes, how is it?" Xiaohua asked somewhat proudly. "It's really beautiful." Xian took a breath and wrinkled his nose. "Moreover, the air inside is very fresh. The noble qi is also abundant. I even feel that the noble qi of the Confucian cultivator is also very clear, much better than the hidden immortal continent." Right, there's also the scenery. It's much more beautiful than the majority of the places in the hidden immortal continent. Of course, why don't you think about who set up the Kunlun wonderland? Xiaohua raised his head and said very proudly. Yes. Xian clapped his hands and said, "This Kunlun mirror is in your hands. You must be able to personally set up the wonderland inside. Darling Xiaoyu, why don't you let me also refine this Kunlun mirror? I also want to set up a space." However, Xian only said a few words and said with a smile, "Darling Xiao, don't take it seriously. I know that only you can refine the Kunlun mirror. I'm just envious of you." Boom. Xian's words reminded Xiaohua again. That day at the dawn and dusk cliff, because Xiaohua couldn't free himself, he gave the Kunlun mirror to the celestial being to collect the Fortune Gate disciples who were fighting with the 4 great clans. Now that he thought about it, wasn't this a big flaw? Even when he was at the Longevity Town, Xiaohua also gave the Kunlun mirror to the celestial being. The celestial being using the Kunlun mirror was naturally a pretense, just like Xiaohua. He was just putting the Fortune Gate disciples into the Shenhua continent like they were things, but others didn't know, and others would definitely think that it was a clone. Xiaohua smiled and answered, "The Kunlun mirror is different from other magic tools. It can be activated through simple refining, but the Kunlun wonderland inside is something I can do. If you want to refine it and collect some things, I can refine it." "Io, that's not right. Refining the Kunlun mirror requires the Tao's true essence and techniques. You're a Confucian cultivator. You still can't do it." "Io, I remember now." When Xiaohua mentioned refining the Kunlun mirror, Xian's face turned red again, and she exclaimed, "His Majesty asked you to comprehend the 9 prefectures' cauldron's array formation. You can't have forgotten, right?" Seeing that Xian took the initiative to throw the refining of the Kunlun mirror aside, Xiaohua really admired Xian's purity. He nodded and said, "This is related to the happiness of this Zhao's life. How can this Xiao forget?" When it came to happiness, even though there was no one around, Xian's face turned red, and she whispered, "Since you know, why don't you hurry up and comprehend it? There are some secret techniques that are unique to us Confucian cultivators. I'm afraid you don't know." "Don't forget." Xiaohua smiled and said, "I am the smartest little monk in the world. I was the one who taught you the 5 qis unification technique." When the little monk was mentioned, Xian immediately thought of the time in the Xianshui Palace, and the sweetness on her face deepened. She gently pulled Xiaohua's hand, and placed the 5-colored jade crystal into Xiaohua's hand, and whispered, "Then take your time to comprehend it, don't worry. Gathering 9 Confucian cultivators at the peak of the 9th grade of essence energy isn't particularly difficult. The difficult part is being united. This concubine will discuss this with the master of the Taiqing Palace. And if it doesn't work out, ask him to help the masters of the Shangqing Palace and Yuqing Palace, plus you and the master of the Wenzhou Palace. It should be about the same." Tizit. Xiaohua pretended to be angry and said, "I gave the master of the Shangqing Palace a good beating. How can he help me?" "Hehe, Xiaolang, you think everyone is as narrow-minded as you." Xian covered her mouth and laughed. "When the master of the Taiqing Palace heard about you, he even specially told me to take good care of you." "All right." Xiaohua smiled and said, "Then I'll take a look at the array formation first. If it doesn't work, I'll prepare a gift to bribe them. Do you think I should take the rejuvenation pill?" Chapter 46-61. Go. Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he heard Demon Venerable Shi say the same words he used to congratulate Suji and Xingyue. He raised his hand and said, "Hurry up and sit there. We have something important to discuss." "Yes, Sect Master." Demon Venerable Shi didn't dare to delay and quickly sat down. Xiaohua looked up and saw that Lu Yi had returned to the Fortune Palace and was standing beside Fuji Wen. Xiaohua smiled and said, "Lu Yi, you're finally back." Lu Yi blushed and hurriedly bowed. "Disciple is unfilial. Please forgive me, Master." Disciple received Master's order and rushed back day and night. I didn't dare to delay at all. How's the situation at the Heavenly Abode River?" Xiaohua asked. Lu Yi hurriedly told her about the Heavenly Abode River. Although Jiang Hong was very ambitious, she also knew Xiaohua's character. Seeing that Ao Zhan had returned, she naturally would not do anything. Under Jiang Hong's leadership, the entire Heavenly Abode River had been thriving. Today, it had become a dragon tribe force second only to the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. After Lu Yi finished speaking, Xiaohua nodded and said, "The West Sea was attacked by alien insects and the West Sea Dragon King went missing. You already know, right?" "Yes, Disciple knows." Lu Yi knew what Xiaohua wanted to say and hurriedly replied, "Presumably, Little Yin already knows. She must have led the Heavenly Abode River Dragon clan to the West Sea. Disciple will send a message for her to return." "No." Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "Let her go." "Ah." Lu Yi was shocked and said, "Master, if Little Yin goes, she will be aiming for the Dragon King of the West Sea Dragon Palace." "She wants to." Xiaohua smiled and said, "Is it easy to be the Dragon King of the West Sea? Let her be the vanguard for the Dragon King of the West Sea." "Yes, Disciple understands." Lu Yi looked at Fuji Wen and the others. He didn't know who the Dragon King of the West Sea was. He could only respectfully agree. "Since you're back, I'll leave the Fortune Palace's affairs to you," Xiaohua instructed. "Also, when your martial uncle Lei returned, I already told him about the alien insects. Others might not know how powerful they are, but your martial uncle Kuang should know. I presume you all already have a plan by now, right?" "Yes, this disciple has already discussed it with the various martial uncles and senior brothers," Lu Yi hurriedly replied. However, before Master returned, the Creation Daoist Palace received an edict from the Immortal Palace, inviting Master to the Lingyun Side Palace to discuss the plan to repel the strange insects. Therefore, I think we should first see how the various forces will be divided. Ignore them. They simply don't know how powerful these alien insects are. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "You only need to take them into consideration." And Disciple has already thought about it. Lu Yi was about to report, but Xiaohua stopped him and said with a smile, "As the saying goes, to resist foreign aggression, one must first pacify the internal affairs. Let's talk about the matter of the alien insects later. Let's talk about the internal affairs of our Dao sect first." Lu Yi didn't understand, but he didn't ask and stood to the side. Xiaohua shook the Kunlun mirror and released Li Xiang and the others. After pondering for a moment, he had the unrelated disciples leave the Fortune Dao Palace first. He then said to Li Xiang and Xiongyi, "Master has something to tell you. Don't be surprised." Looking at Xiaohua's solemn expression, Li Xiang and Xiongyi were shocked. They exchanged a glance and hurriedly bowed. "Master, please speak." Xiaohua then told them about His Highness Lan's assassination attempt on Changyu. "How is that possible?" Li Xiang and Xiongyi turned pale with fright when they heard Xiaohua's words. Xiongyi even asked, "Master, are you sure?" "If I'm not sure, why would Master tell you?" Xiaohua said coldly. In fact, Master was suppressed, and His Highness Lan's choice was considered normal. He sacrificed Master to protect the Fortune Gate. Even if he betrayed the Fortune Gate and joined the Grand Mist Ancestor, Master wouldn't blame him. However, he shouldn't have set up an ambush for you or Changyu. When Xiongyi heard Xiaohua's last sentence, he suddenly realized that the one His Highness Lan wanted to kill was him, not Changyu. If he had gone half a day earlier, the one standing here right now would be Changyu. Immediately, cold sweat trickled down his back. "Xiongyi, do you think you're afraid? With such a vicious person by your side, can you cultivate in peace and deal with the Fortune Gate's affairs?" Xiaohua asked. "Disciple can't avoid this. To tell you the truth, Disciple can't." Xiongyi answered honestly. "Now that I think about it, His Highness Lan has long had ulterior motives." "But," Li Xiang asked curiously, "why did Master only mention it now? Could it be that for the past 50 years, you've been casting a long line to catch a big fish?" "That's right." Xiaohua nodded. "This old man wants to see what that Grand Mist Ancestor is planning. Moreover, Master has ordered Fujiwen and the others to investigate His Highness Lan's actions. Jiwen, what do you think?" "Yes, Master." Fujiwen stepped forward and said, "Since the establishment of the Shao country, His Highness Lan has been the state preceptor. On the surface, there are several hundred Dao sects cultivators who have pledged allegiance to the Shao country, and His Highness Lan has ordered them to manage the Shao country's affairs. In the dark, there are more than a dozen forces that have entered the Shao country. That day, Master said that if possible, we should try our best not to set up any government in the Shao country. Of course, the decision-making power is still in His Highness Lan's hands, and he should consider the situation according to the actual situation. His Highness Lan used the reason that the Shao country is too big, and if there were no government or other organizations, it would be impossible to manage it. He has already sent a message to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range, and has already started to set up arrangements in the Shao country according to the secular world's Dao sect's embryonic form. As for these forces and those Dao sect's cultivators, due to the lack of time, Disciple has yet to investigate their origins. There's no need to investigate further." Xiaohua's face was ashen, and he waved his hand. "These arrangements are definitely the Grand Mist Ancestor's idea, and it could also be the Sky-Bearing Palace's disciples." "Damn it!" Fujiwen gritted his teeth and said, "The Grand Mist Ancestor is of our Dao sect's lineage, and the Sky-Bearing Palace that he established is of the same origin as our Fortune Gate. Now, he hasn't even shown his banner in the hidden immortal continent, and he's already starting to make moves behind our backs, truly hateful." Louis laughed. "Master is even worse, making such a big Shao country. The Sky-Bearing Palace's cultivators are already hard to settle down, and now they're all sent here at once. Won't they be swallowed by Master in the future? Things are far from as simple as we think." Xiaohua sighed. If it weren't for the alien insect's attack, Master might have slowly played chess with the Grand Mist Ancestor. Now that the hidden immortal continent is on the verge of destruction, Master doesn't have the time to dawdle with him. However, there's no need to make things clear with the Grand Mist Ancestor. Let's see if he has any other plans. Li Xiang, Xiongyi, listen up. Yes, Disciple is here. Xiongyi and Li Xiang hurriedly bowed and answered. Xiaohua instructed. The two of you are not inferior to His Highness Lan's ability to stabilize the country, and if His Highness Lan is the only one in charge of the Shao country, there will be a flaw. Therefore, Master orders the two of you to lead your disciples to the Shao country, and discuss with His Highness Lan to divide the Shao country into 3 parts. This way, 1, you can dispel the Grand Mist Ancestor's doubts, and 2, You can force him to invest more forces in the Shao country. Yes, Sect Master. Li Xiang and Xiong Yi accepted the order and left. Finally, Xiaohua looked at Lu Yi and said, regarding the alien insects, Master had already warned the Go-Chen Immortal Emperor, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha, and the Golden-Winged Great Rock in the Longevity Town. However, from the current situation, other than the Golden-Winged Great Rock, the other two turned a deaf ear to it. They don't understand the significance of the alien insects. Master. Fujiwen smiled. Don't be too angry. Humans are all like this. Seeing is believing. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, how would they believe that a strange insect could destroy the world? If Senior Apprentice Uncle Yen didn't mention it, and if we didn't witness the tragedy of the world's destruction in the ruins, I'm afraid we wouldn't believe it so easily. After all, how could the world's destruction be so easy? This is also the saying of the secular world. Don't turn back until you hit the southern wall. Xiaohua smiled and asked Lu Yi. The alien insects have already appeared in the borders of the 3 continents and 4 seas. The Yu province is in the middle of the buried immortal mainland, and the Shao country is in the Gun province. There's still some time before the alien insects attack, so we should make full use of this time to set up defenses in the Fortune Gate and Shao country. Lu Yi, I'm sure you all already have a plan, tell us. Yes, Master. Lu Yi hurriedly explained the Fortune Gate's defense plan in the Shao country, and the Soaring Dragon Mountain range to Xiaohua. Xiaohua clapped his hands and said, Good, with such a plan, I'm sure it will be able to resist the alien worms. However, you all don't have to worry. If something dangerous happens, doesn't our Fortune Gate still have the Shenhua mainland? Disciple understands. Wang Bianfei smiled and said, But if we go, what about the Shao country's citizens? What about the Shi country's citizens, the Yu province, and even the 9 prefecture citizens? Master probably can't bear to see them being devoured by the alien insects, right? Xiaohua's heart sank when he heard Wang Bianfei's words. Ordinary cultivators were no match for the alien insects, not to mention the 3 continents human race and demonic beast race. They were simply food for the alien insects. During the Jade Pavilion conference, Master must force them to join forces to resist the alien insects. Lu Yi reminded, joining forces is inevitable, but how to do so is a problem. The Great Sage Temple is responsible for the 1,000 demonic sacred territory. The Immortal Palace is responsible for the hidden immortal mainland. The Buddhist sect is responsible for the Pure Land, and the Dragon Palace is responsible for the 4 seas. What about our Fortune Gate? Lu Yi, what do you think? Xiaohua asked with interest. That depends on Master's plan after the catastrophe. Lu Yi opened his mouth, and his words were imbued with Jiang Hong's subtle influence. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support. Chapter 46-62. Xiaohua smiled wryly at Lu Yi's words. He had always been a person who took half a step forward. How could he have thought of such things? Moreover, when he saw the alien worms warning, his mind was filled with thoughts of how to eliminate the alien worms, and how to save the 3 mainlands people. How could he have thought of so many things? Master doesn't understand these things. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, Why else would I send you back to the Fortune Gate? Yes. Lu Yi nodded. He pondered for a moment before saying, Didn't Master say earlier? Send little Yin to the West Sea first. Now that the West Sea Dragon King's whereabouts are unknown, it's a good opportunity to intervene in the West Sea. Moreover, Master is the Dragon Island's Dragon Master, so why not take over the West Sea's defenses? Xiaohua pondered. He knew that the Dragon Island's control over the 4 Seas Dragon Palaces was weak, and they wanted to use him to restrain the 4 Seas Dragon Palaces. Moreover, he had just established his authority in the South Sea Dragon Palace, and the 4 Seas Dragon Kings were afraid of him. If he took this opportunity to defend the West Sea, with the support of the Heavenly Paradise River's Dragon Tribe and Ao Zhan, he had a 70% chance of controlling the West Sea Dragon Palace. This way, he could lay the foundation for Xiao Bai to enter the West Sea Dragon Palace, find a way out for the Fortune Gate's disciples, and protect Chuanzong. And we'll do as you say. Prepare to dispatch disciples. When Master returns from the Jade Lake, we will defend the West Sea. Xiaohua agreed with Lu Yi's suggestion. However, Xiaohua had just finished speaking when Lu Yi hesitated for a moment and said, Master, disciple and the others still have something to say to Master. Oh, what is it that makes it so difficult? Xiaohua asked curiously. Lu Yi glanced at Fu Jiwen and Wang Bianfei. Fu Jiwen nodded and stepped forward. Master, it's like this. After junior brother Lu returned from the Heavenly Paradise River, he took over the Fortune Gate's daily affairs. Then Marshal Uncle Lei and the others returned and told us about the alien worms invasion. We all felt that this matter was troublesome. If our Fortune Gate's disciples only defended the Shao country and the Soaring Dragon Mountain range, it would be easy. But with Master's benevolence, he would definitely take the 3 mainlands into consideration. Although Disciple did not think of going to the West Sea's defenses, he would definitely send disciples out. In that case, our Fortune Gate's disciples would have to fight on 3 fronts. Our Fortune Gate's foundation. If we split our forces would be divided, our strength would be divided. That's why I think it's better to concentrate our forces. Wang Bianfei continued. If there were no alien insects, the Fortune Dao Palace would be located in the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range, and the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range would be the foundation of my Fortune Gate. However, since there is the danger of alien insects attacking, this Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Fortune Gate has become our burden. Also, the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range was in the hidden Immortal Continent, which was in the center of Yu Province, and Yu Province was the center of 9 regions. How could the Immortal Palace let the foundation of a Dao sect be like a nail in their heart? After the rise of the Fortune Gate, the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range is no longer the first choice. Yu Zhongquan chimed in. Moreover, the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Fortune Gate's disciples are all low-grade Fortune Gate disciples, and they are the most vulnerable to the strange insects attacks. Instead of letting them stay here under the protection of other high-grade Fortune Gate disciples, they should be protected from the Kunlun Mirror. Also, most of the Fortune Gate's disciples are from the Kunlun Immortal Realm's Shenhua mainland. They don't have much of a sense of belonging to this Fortune Gate. Therefore, the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Fortune Gate is merely a symbol. Now that the strange insects have attacked, it has become a burden. And Master understands. Xiaohua nodded slightly. Seeing that Xiaohua's expression did not change, Lu Yi was relieved. He was the one who suggested this matter, and he knew that Xiaohua did not like Jiang Hong for being too ambitious and utilitarian, so he did not dare to mention it. What are your thoughts? Xiaohua turned to look at Lightning Reverend and the others. Lightning Reverend smiled and said, I am the creator of the Shenhua mainland's Fortune Gate. Of course, I like the Shenhua mainland's Fortune Gate. When Chu, Buddha Maitreya, World-Honored One, and Feng Wu were not present, Daoist Witch and Reverend Yin exchanged a glance, and Daoist Witch said, What my disciples said makes sense. Although the heaven and earth energy here is abundant, it is still lacking compared to the Shenhua mainland. Instead of letting them stay here in fear, it is better to not send them into the Kunlun Immortal Realm. Moreover, the Fortune Gate's strength has retreated from the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range, which is a good thing for Xian. Didn't she mention this matter before? It's just that she wants you to go to the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. Moreover, our Fortune Gate does not want to expand our forces in the hidden Immortal Continent. We only created the Shao country to protect the common people. The Fortune Gate's retreat in the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range has highlighted fellow Daoists' view of the big picture. Whoever wants to touch the Shao country will not be able to do so. Brothers, Archdevil Venerable Sure also said with a smile. Boy, what you said makes sense. If the strange insects attack, you and I will not be here, and we will even have to leave a brother here to guard this place. Not only will it be a waste, but it will also worry us. Why don't we move the Fortune Gate to the Shenhua mainland? How can it be safer than the human race's Mahayana realm experts? After Xiaohua heard this, he understood that the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's creation gate was indeed necessary to exist before the invasion of the alien insects. It could form an even bigger creation gate with the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, and the Pure Land in the future. However, now that the alien insects had attacked, his plans had to be pushed back. The soaring Dragon Mountain Range's creation gate was no longer interesting. Rather than that, it was better to send it directly to the Shenhua continent. After the apocalypse passed, he could rebuild it according to the specific situation. But there was another problem with this arrangement. If the Fortune Gate's disciples were to be kept in their own space, who would resist the strange insects? Wouldn't the Fortune Gate be an empty shell? Thus, Xiaohua voiced out his concerns. Lu Yi and the others discussed and said, "Master, how about this? We will send the soaring Dragon Mountain Range's low-level disciples to the Shenhua mainland, and let the Shenhua mainland's high-level disciples stay on the continent to resist the strange insects. What do you think?" "Good." Xiaohua nodded and said. In that case, Lu Yi passed down this old man's order. Start organizing the Fortune Gate's things. When Master returns from the Jade Lake, the low-level disciples guarding the soaring Dragon Mountain Range will be sent to the Kunlun Immortal Realm. You all should also prepare to go to the West Sea. Of course, the disciples going to the Shao country must be arranged well. Yes, disciple will obey sect master's order. Lu Yi was overjoyed. Xiaohua then discussed some matters with the disciples and dismissed them. After the disciples left, Xiaohua said to Lightning Taoist and the others, the Confucian, Buddhist, Taoist, and demonic beast races must join forces to resist the alien insects. However, the resistance of the 3 continents and 4 seas is only a temporary solution. If we want to kill the strange insects and completely block them from entering the 3 continents, we still need to block the space passage that the strange insects use to invade the 3 continents. This old man has seen billions of strange insects in the West Sea's eye. And this old man also appeared near the Yu Province cauldron through the space passage. From the 5-9 prefectures cauldrons that I obtained from Kong Honggu, that guy must have destroyed the 9 prefectures' grand formation. Those strange insects must have invaded the 3 continents through the space passage because the 9 prefectures' grand formation was destroyed. Therefore, if we want to eradicate the alien insects, we must re-establish the 9 prefectures' grand formation. And I and the others understand this. Taoist Wu nodded. After the 9 prefectures' grand formation was destroyed, the hidden immortal continent suffered endless disasters. Even if there were no alien insects, we must re-establish the grand formation as soon as possible. The celestial being laughed. Of course, this is related to fellow Taoists' happiness. Right now, there are exactly 9 sect masters in our Fortune Gate. Isn't it because the heavens want our Fortune Gate to re-establish the 9 prefectures' grand formation? Alright, let's not talk about it anymore. Xiaohua smiled faintly and took out the 5-colored jade crystal, saying, "Fellow Taoists, we will now comprehend the 9 prefectures' grand formations method." Good. The doppelgangers nodded and closed their eyes after Xiaohua. A few days later, Xiaohua was the first to open his eyes. Although he was frowning, there was also a trace of joy on his face. A few breaths later, the doppelgangers also opened their eyes. Xiaohua said, "This 9 prefectures' grand formation is indeed extraordinary. It's not the cultivation world's array. If I'm not mistaken, it should be the Heavenly Court's immortal defense array. The 9 prefectures' grand formations method of setting it up is also a work of art. It's truly unimaginable. To think that it can borrow the strength of 9 venerable realm cultivators to successfully set it up." Lightning Taoist agreed. The method of setting up this grand formation isn't difficult. Although it requires the use of the 5 Qis unifications, fellow Taoist knows how to do it. However, it's extremely difficult to use the spirit and branches interlocking technique. Xian has never seen the method of setting up this grand formation. Her thinking is too simple. If it wasn't difficult, why would old man Gaochen hand it over to us? Taoist Wu sneered. He himself knows that the 9 cultivators setting up the grand formation not only have to work together, but they also have to be telepathic and be able to activate the 9 prefectures' cauldrons at the same time. This is 9 people. It's hard to find an immortal palace, hard to find in this world. What 3 purities palace master? None of them can be used. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and said, "This is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. If the 9 of us can successfully cultivate this spirit and branches interlocking technique, our divine senses, Buddhist senses, elemental senses, and devil senses will be able to cover the entire hidden immortal continent. In other words, you can enter Shenhua continent from anywhere in the hidden immortal continent as you wish. Hee, indeed, this is the only benefit of setting up the grand formation. Celestial being said with a smile. Not only that. Xiaohua smiled and said, this spirit and branches interlocking technique doesn't seem to be a secret technique of the heavenly court. There might be other secrets. This old man feels that if we can cultivate this to the extreme, there will be miraculous effects that we can't imagine. Big brother. Just as Xiaohua was discussing with his clones in high spirits, Demon Sovereign Shi cried out, little brother is from the devil race. This 5 cheese unifications technique can't be cultivated at all. Little brother can't activate your Xiantian true qi either? How is that possible? Xiaohua was shocked and shouted, didn't the underworld judge use this Xiantian true qi to temper his body? Not to mention that you are a devil formation devil spirit body condensation technique. How can you not activate it? Chapter 46-63. Big Brother. Demon Venerable Shi hurriedly explained. I'm sure you know that the netherworld energy is the energy of death, and the energy refined by Confucian cultivators is the energy of life. If you absorb the energy of life, you can activate the energy of death, which is beneficial to the cultivation of the substitute of the judge of hell. However, the noble energy is the energy of justice, which is the natural opposite of the devil energy of the devil race. It's completely different from the Tao of life and death. I can't cultivate the cultivation technique of the devil race with the help of the noble energy, so I can't activate the innate energy. Of course, I've thought the same as you, big brother. I'm a condensed body of a devil spirit from the devil formation of the upper realm, so I can totally suppress the innate energy and control it. But when I tried it just now, it's not like that at all. Fellow Taoist, you're too careless. Taoist, which echoed. The 9 cauldrons are used to suppress the fate of the human race. How can they be activated by the devil race? Xiaohua's brows furrowed. Taoist, which had wronged him by saying he was careless, because in his heart, he had never regarded Demon Venerable Shi as a real Demon Venerable. Xiaohua had cultivated the 5 energies of origin in his 5 viscera and 6 bowels, and cultivated the devil cultivation technique in his bloodline. Later on, when he became a clone, he gave these techniques to his clones to cultivate. Usually, when he activated the devil cultivation technique and the Confucian cultivation technique, there was nothing wrong with them. Therefore, he always thought that Demon Venerable Shi could also activate the Confucian cultivation technique like him. But he had never thought that Demon Venerable Shi had become a real devil, and he could no longer freely use the Confucian cultivation technique like Xiaohua. What about my fellow Taoists? Xiaohua asked the other clones worriedly. Let me tell you. Taoist Witch and the others looked at each other and answered. The noble energy has no innate conflict with what we cultivate. We have no problem with it. Reverend Yun even laughed and said, my heavenly dragon language technique can activate the 9 cauldrons better than the 5 energies of origin. Xiaohua sighed and said, the dragon race has always had a secret with the human race. It's just that we don't know about it. And you've activated the 9 cauldrons before, so of course you can do it. Big brother, what do we do now? Demon Venerable Shi asked with a sullen face. Our fortune gate has exactly 9 patriarchs. Since we're missing one, we should send a Confucian cultivator to replace you. Xiaohua said helplessly, even though he really didn't want to expose his relationship with his avatars. What about Heavenly Tao Xiaohua and Karma Xiaohua? Celestial suggested. Their attacks should be more powerful than ours. They haven't formed yet, we can't place our hopes on them. Xiaohua shook his head. Didn't Big Brother say that? My fortune gate still has a 10th old master. Honorable Devil Shi suggested. Why don't we let him come? He has no chance. Xiaohua waved his hand. Even if he comes back, his strength can't compare to ours. You'd better practice the same chi connection technique first before thinking about how to activate the 9 cauldrons. As for the Confucian cultivators, I have come into contact with only the master of the 3 purities palace. As for which one, I will discuss it with the immortal emperor at the Jade Pool. That's the only way. Lightning Reverend nodded. It will take us a lot of time to comprehend the same chi connection technique. Let's talk about it at that time. Since the discussion had come to an end, all the clones returned to the space and seized the time to comprehend the same chi connection technique, leaving only Reverend Yun to guard the Fortune Palace. Xiao Hua summoned Xian and told him that he was going to attend the Jade Pool gathering at the High Cloud Side Palace. Xian didn't have any hesitation and refused Xiao Hua's request to take him along. However, he heard her very shyly say, Xiaolang, His Majesty is giving pointers to the 9 regions Great Array to let this concubine follow you. This is already a crime against the whole world. If you bring me to the Jade Pool gathering, it will be a slap to the Immortal Palace's face. I'll stay at the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range and help you with the sex affairs. When Bayan returns, I'll help you with the star-picking tower. Alright. Xiao Hua thought that it would be much safer to send Xian into the space, but when he thought about how far the alien insects were from here, and how Reverend Yun was guarding the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range, he nodded in agreement. My dear Xiao, are you going to attend the Jade Pool gathering? Seeing that Xiao Hua was about to leave the Fortune Dao Palace, Xian explained obediently, if you're going to the High Cloud Side Palace, you only need to open His Majesty's decree and there will naturally be a patrol envoy to welcome you. Before heading to the Jade Pool gathering, there's still one more place to go. Xiao Hua looked outside the Fortune Dao Palace and replied thoughtfully. Where? Xian blurted out. However, she smiled and said, I'm asking too much. Oh, this isn't important. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, the world's Dao sects are already declining. Today the hidden immortal Dao gate is opening. With me, Xiao Hua, in the world, who dares to let their disciples be bullied? Hearing Xiao Hua's words, Xian covered her mouth and laughed. Reverend Xiao really cares about the world. I'm only at the 4th level of elemental energy, but I actually dared to set up a blood steel in the bronze pillar state. If this matter were to spread to the Immortal Palace, it would definitely be treated as a huge joke. Even without the patrol envoy's help, ordinary soil would flatten this blood steel. I don't know what Reverend Xiao was thinking that day. You actually dared to say such bold words. Aren't you afraid of being hunted down by the Xianhuang order? Xiao Hua shrugged and said somewhat embarrassedly. At that time, this Xiao had just arrived at the bronze pillar state from the country of Xi. I didn't know about the Xianhuang order. Moreover, Dao Shan died too miserably. This Xiao was furious. When I thought of the hidden immortal continent's Dao gate being bullied, this Xiao erected the blood steel in a fit of anger. Later on, when I thought about it, I also felt that I was too arrogant. However, this Xiao didn't have time to go to the bronze pillar state. Hearing this, Xian's face turned serious and said, this blood steel. Forget it, I won't talk about it. You'll know when you see it. Fortunately, Dao Shan died miserably. The Bronze Pillar State's king felt that he was in the wrong. Later on, the Bronze Pillar State's fate declined, and was replaced by another state called the Jade Pung State. At that time, you already made a name for yourself in the blood pool of gods and devils. Some scholarly families' literary sages also helped you spread the seeds. That Jade Pung State didn't dare to offend the literary sages, and kept the Seven Sons Temple. As for later on, I was imprisoned and didn't know about the Seven Sons Temple. Xiao Hua's heart thumped as he asked curiously, oh, why are you hesitating? What happened before? It's fine if you don't know about it. Xian smiled. She originally didn't want to talk about it. However, looking at Xiao Hua's expression, she rolled her eyes and said, forget it, since you want to know I'll tell you. Actually, you'll know when you think about it. You're only a 4th grade Dao sect cultivator. You actually dared to set up a blood steel in the hidden immortal continent. Although the Bronze Pillar State didn't dare to touch your blood steel, what about the other scholarly cultivators? The great Grandmaster dismissed it with a smile. What about the masters? Literary sages? To be honest, you still have to thank the Bronze Pillar Academy. Oh no, it should be called the Jade Pung Academy now. Otherwise, not only would your blood steel be filthy, even the Seven Suns Temple would have been destroyed. Of course, now that your name has shaken the world, the Blood Steel and Seven Suns Temple would naturally be different from before. I'm telling you now because I want you to know that although it's good for people to have lofty aspirations, if you rashly tell others about it and don't have the strength to realize it, you might become a joke. Before Xian could finish, Xiaohua laughed and said, "Don't worry. With my current status, how could I make a move in the Jade Pung Academy?" "You're thinking too much." After saying that, Xiaohua's figure flashed and turned into a rainbow as he rushed out of the Fortune Dao Palace. Seeing that Xiaohua had left, Xian shook his head with a wry smile. Xiaohua, how could you know about the matters of the world by yourself? Even if you're now a Grand Ascension Stage Dao Sect cultivator, I'm afraid you don't know that the blood steel has been erected in the Seven Suns Temple for hundreds of years, and that many strange things have happened. The Soaring Dragon Mountain Range wasn't too far away from the Copper Pillar Nation and the current Jade Rock Nation. Not long after Xiaohua flew out, his spiritual force had already found the Seven Yang Monastery. He didn't need to use the lightning escape technique. In just a short while, Xiaohua had already flown above the Seven Yang Monastery. Hearing Xian's words, Xiaohua felt a little nervous. He didn't know what the Seven Suns Temple was like now. Moreover, Suji had specially mentioned the Seven Suns Temple in the Star Moon Palace, so Xiaohua had a lot of ideas along the way. But when he saw the current state of the Seven Suns Temple, he was a little surprised. He couldn't help but whisper, "Oh, that's a little strange." Because the Seven Suns Temple was still the Seven Suns Temple, it seemed that the 300 years hadn't left any traces in the Seven Suns Temple. Although there were no traces of people in the Seven Suns Temple, the blood steel was still standing there and hadn't collapsed like Xiaohua had imagined. Even the entire Seven Suns Temple was abnormally clean and didn't have a garden full of weeds like Xiaohua had imagined. Something must have happened that I don't know about, Xiaohua thought as he descended towards the Seven Suns Temple. However, before he could land, he saw 3 cultivators in Taoist robes rushing towards the Seven Suns Temple in a rather pathetic manner. Behind them, there were 2 Confucian cultivators who were chasing after them on clouds with flying swords in their hands. When the 3 Taoist cultivators saw the shadow of the Seven Suns Temple appear in front of them, joy appeared on their faces. They activated their dermic powers and their speed increased by 30%. On the other hand, the 2 scholarly cultivators became anxious. They looked at each other and opened their mouths, sending several mouthfuls of true qi into the flying swords in their hands. Woo! The 2 flying swords turned into sword lights and chased after 2 of the 3 cultivators. At the same time, the 2 scholarly cultivators' bodies became sluggish and fell a few feet. It seemed that their true qi was somewhat exhausted. I hope that when he sees this, he can leave a comment in the book review section. Thank you. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support it. Chapter 46-64. The flying swords were like lightning, and in the blink of an eye, they had already landed on the backs of the 2 Dao sect cultivators. The 2 Dao sect cultivators didn't panic and waved their hands behind them. 2 defensive magic treasures flew out and blocked the flying swords. Puff puff. The flying swords pierced the magic treasures and emitted a bright light. The flying swords and magic treasures were both sent flying at the same time. Break. At this moment, the 2 Confucian cultivators behind began to chant inscriptions. Boom boom. The 2 flying swords exploded at the same time and turned into a rain of swords that fell towards the 2. Not good. The 2 scanned with their divine senses, and both knew that things were not good. Xiaohua, who was high up in the sky, frowned. Just as he was about to raise his hand, the 2 Dao sect cultivators waved their hands at the same time. 2 black ropes flew out of their hands and fell towards the 3rd person. Looking at the 3rd person, it was clear that he was prepared. Just as the 2 Dao sect cultivators attacked, his body suddenly fell. The two hands under his robe raised at the same time, and two small snakes that were about an inch long rushed out and bit towards the two Dao sect cultivators' arms. Seeing the three of them fighting like this, Xiaohua's eyes flashed with anger. He immediately withdrew his divine ability and stood quietly in the sky, no longer attacking. Swish swish. When the two small snakes appeared, the two Dao sect cultivators who attacked seemed to be afraid. They hurriedly controlled the ropes to land on the small snakes. With two soft sounds, the small snakes were killed. At the same time, puff puff. With several muffled sounds, two clusters of broken sword light fell onto the backs of the two Dao sect cultivators. Although there were some fluctuations of magic power on their backs, they were still unable to block it. The two Dao sect cultivators fell to the ground. Umph. The third Dao sect cultivator coldly snorted and flew high up into the sky. Like a bird, he charged into the Seven Suns Temple. Once he entered the Seven Suns Temple, the Daoist cultivator's courage was boosted. He stood on the wall of the Seven Suns Temple and shouted coldly, "Kong Feng, Kong Jia, the two of you have chased I for more than 6,000 miles. Now that I can no longer fly, come and kill me." At this time, the two Confucian cultivators had already flown to the two injured Taoist cultivators who had fallen to the ground. They ignored the provocation of the Taoist cultivators and raised their hands to take out two thin ropes that were more than a foot long. As their true qi fell on the ropes, blood-red armor inscriptions gushed out. As soon as the inscriptions appeared, the two thin ropes fell on the two Taoist cultivators like inscription chains and firmly tied them up. After doing all this, one of the Confucian cultivators raised his eyes to look at the Taoist cultivator standing on the wall and said coldly, "You Feihu, if you have the guts, then come down and compete. What kind of man are you if you're standing on top? The higher you stand, the farther you can see." The Taoist cultivator named Yu Feihu saw that the two Confucian cultivators didn't dare to come closer, and became even bolder. He said proudly, "Don't tell me the two of you don't want to see 1,000 miles and reach a higher level? Damn it." One of the Confucian cultivators was a little angry. He raised his hand and pointed at Yu Feihu. He said angrily, "You have the ability to kill 49 young boys and girls as a blood sacrifice for your Dharma artifact. Why do you have the guts to fight me to the death? Those young boys and girls are people in trouble. Even if I don't do anything, they won't live for more than a few days. Since that's the case, why can't I sacrifice them for my Dharma artifact?" Yu Feihu sneered. "Besides, the two of you are just constables from the Qing Kingdom. Why are you in the Fengjing Kingdom's territory? Since it's a heinous crime, no matter where you are, I should arrest you." The more the Confucian cultivator spoke, the angrier he became. Suddenly, his body moved, and a multicolored light appeared as he pounced at Yu Feihu. Haha. Yu Feihu wasn't afraid at all. His body flashed, and he jumped into the Seven Suns Temple. He laughed and said, "Kong Jia, why don't you come in? This is the Seven Suns Temple. In front of me is Taoist Zhao's blood steel. You dare to bully my Taoist disciples in front of the blood steel? Aren't you afraid that your Qing Kingdom will annihilate the Fortune Gate?" Sure enough, Kong Jia's body flew to the walls of the Seven Suns Temple and stopped. She didn't dare to take half a step forward. There was a look of unwillingness on her face. "What's wrong? You don't dare to come in?" Yu Feihu became even more arrogant. He laughed wildly and said, "Didn't you chase me for thousands of miles to take my life? Now that I'm standing in front of you, why don't you dare to move?" Confucian cultivators, O Confucian cultivators, you have stood tall in the hidden immortal continent for countless years. My Taoist cultivators have been humiliated by you for countless years. Now my Taoist sect is no longer the Taoist sect of the past. My Taoist sect can finally stand tall. Damn it. Kong Jia was enraged. She urged her body to charge into the Seven Suns Temple to capture Yu Feihu. When Yu Feihu saw Kong Jia flying out, he couldn't help but be stunned. He hurriedly jumped down the wall. At this moment, Kong Feng had already flown behind Kong Jia. Seeing Kong Jia acting rashly, Kong Feng turned pale with fright. He disregarded everything and rushed forward to block Kong Jia. He anxiously said, "Kong Jia, what are you doing? Don't forget." This is the blood steel where the Taoist sect's Grand Ascension Stage Taoist sect was established. It's not a place for small fries like us to barge in. Our lives are a small matter. If we provoke the fortune gate, what will happen to my Kong family and Qing kingdom? Don't fall for this bastard's trick. Damn it. Kong Jia saw that Yu Feihu was about to jump off the wall, but when she saw Kong Feng blocking her, she arrogantly stood on the wall. However, Yu Feihu was tactful and didn't dare to provoke her anymore. Kong Jia couldn't help but curse. Taoist Xiao is really that unfortunately, before Kong Jia could say anything else, Kong Feng was scared out of his wits. He covered Kong Jia's mouth and dragged her away. Ha! Yu Feihu looked at the two constables and laughed to his heart's content. He pointed at the two of them and said, "You should know that the days of my Dao Gate civil servants are over." Scram. While Yu Feihu was laughing, there was a sudden roar that sounded like a thunderclap. It scared Yu Feihu. At the same time, a huge force came from behind him. Before he could react, he was thrown off the wall by the huge force. Furthermore, at the same time that the huge force landed on his body, the FA around him was already restricted. Scum of the Dao Gate. At the place where Yu Feihu was standing, an old man wearing a scholar's robe appeared. This old man's forehead was protruding, and his face looked very simple. His head of white hair was as neat as silver strands. Although it was blown by the wind, not a single strand of hair fluttered. Wasn't this the Copper Pillar Imperial Academy's Beigo Jinming that Xiao Hua had met at the Black Wind Ridge? However, time had not left its mark on the Seven Suns Shrine, but it had left its mark on his body. Many thanks, Senior. Kong Jia was overjoyed. She rushed over and captured Yu Feihu. Kong Feng hurriedly flew in front of Beigo Jinming and bowed respectfully. Junior Kong Feng greets Senior. Senior, how dare you use your divine ability in the Seven Suns Shrine? If the Fortune Gate and Taoist Xiao were to find out, I'm afraid a calamity will befall you. Beigo Jinming stood in the air and waved his hand with a smile. You are too careful. Taoist Zhao's intention in setting up the blood steel was to establish the Dao Gate, not to protect these scum of the Dao Gate. Just like those rumors, no one dares to go to the Fortune Gate to verify them. These shameless scum used the rumors to absolve themselves of their crimes. In the end, Taoist Zhao's intention was covered up, and his kindness was distorted. So that's how it is. Hearing this, Kong Feng was enlightened. He looked at the blood steel in the Seven Suns Shrine and asked in a low voice, Senior Yu, how do you know so much? Hee, this old man is Beigo Jinming. Beigo Jinming replied with a smile. When Taoist Xiao set up the blood steel, this old man was the dean of the Copper Pillar Imperial Academy. I even fought with Taoist Xiao. However, this old man is already old. And Taoist Xiao is like the sun in the sky. This old man felt Taoist Xiao's glory back then. And because I was entrusted by someone, I opened a library near the Seven Suns Shrine and spent the rest of my life here. Oh, so it's Senior Beigo. This junior greets you. Kong Feng had never heard of Beigo Jinming's name before, but he still hurried to greet him. At this time, Kong Jia had also captured the three scum of the Dao Gate, and came over to greet Beigo Jinming. The space looked at the blood steel and asked in a low voice, Can this junior enter the Seven Suns Shrine to pay respects to Taoist Zhao's blood steel? Of course. Beigo Jinming smiled and said, Taoist Xiao never said that the Seven Suns Shrine was a forbidden area for Confucian cultivators. Anyone can enter. Hearing this, Kong Jia moved her body and entered the Seven Suns Shrine. Kong Feng opened his mouth, then entered with a bitter smile on his face. The Dao Gate of the world has already declined. Today the hidden immortal Dao Gate is opened. With me, Xiao Hua, in the world. How dare you let your disciples be bullied? Kong Jia looked at the blood steel in the Seven Suns Shrine, and read it word by word. Finally she said, Taoist Zhao's tone is really big. At this point, Kong Jia realized that she was being rude. She hurriedly rolled her eyes and said, Senior Beigo, if Taoist Xiao said those words with the strength of a Taoist Mahayana realm, no one in the world would not bow down. Who would dare to say no? However, this junior heard that Taoist Xiao was only around the 5th grade of origin energy. His strength was not as profound as Senior's. How could he dare to say such bold words? Beigo Zhiming smiled and said, "You are absolutely right. If Daoist Xiao said those words now, it would definitely be bold words. However, if he said those words back then, even this old man felt that it was somewhat arrogant. However, the situation that day was like this." Then Beigo Zhiming explained the situation. Kong Feng and Kong Jie were originally constables. After hearing this, they gnashed their teeth and said, "The Jiang clan is really despicable. No wonder Daoist Xiao was so angry that he set up the blood steel." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.